I was hoping for that. It smells awfully good. Okay. Want to welcome everyone to the Morrisville Town Council. This is a Capital Investments Planning or CIP meeting. It's March the 5th, 6 o'clock. We're at Fire Station 1. And I want to welcome everyone. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy week to meet on this very important topic. I think we're all in place. Diana, we're recording? Perfect. And I will now turn it over to the town manager to kick off.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick things, two shout-outs, as it were, since we're all together tonight. The first one is the sad one. Is tomorrow is Shannon Campbell's last day. And this isn't something I typically do, but because Shannon has worked with each of you and comes and presents and works with the CIC, I thought it would be nice if you were able to say goodbye to her. She didn't really care about coming to see you next Tuesday. And it would be really nice if you said something to her and she could go home.
Make her hang in there.
Your last meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Stand up, Shannon.
Can we say 30 seconds of nice things about
Yes,
her?
please do.
Okay.
Maybe even 45.
TJ, you're up.
The
Say
Literacy
something nice.
sorority is great, and I really liked when we did the walk to school day, the buses. That was a really neat concept, and I really enjoyed that. And you brought a lot to the town, and thank you very much, and you're going to do great wherever you go.
Michael?
Oh, you got thrown to the wolves when we did the gazebo, right? No,
Yeah.
that was very good. That was very good. So trial by fire. It worked out well. Thank you for all your help and support.
Well, I got to say goodbye this afternoon at the chili cook-off today. So,
Okay.
but thank you, Shannon, very much for everything you've done. You, as we've heard already, you've done a lot here and brought some really unique projects to the town, and we really appreciate that. So, thank you. I know you're going to do fabulous where you're going, and you are always welcome to come back, and you are welcome to live here too. So if you need to move a little closer to your new job, we'll help
Can we
you
say
find
what
a house.
she's doing, or is that not?
Sure.
What are you doing?
I'm going into the city of Raleigh, and I'm going to work for their development services, customer service department.
Oh, wow. Good for that.
You're going to do fabulous in that.
No, this is
Go ahead,
not
Chris.
here.
Well, I remember all of the planning and zoning board meetings over the many years, and it's a real loss for us and a big gain for the city of Raleigh. But you'll do well wherever you go, and hopefully I'll see you in downtown Raleigh soon.
Shannon, you've done an incredible job for Morrisville, and you need to take great pride and know that we are a better town because you work here for us. So, and you're going to make Raleigh a very great city as well in any capacity that you work in. So, thank you for your service, and I look forward to hearing more about Shannon.
5 years ago I met Shannon. I was running for county commissioner, and I had to rent a facility to do a kickoff event for my campaign, and she was like, "Who is this guy?" And she was so charming and so helpful. And a year later, she never realized I'd be sitting on the council. So we always remember that time.
It's a good thing I provided that good customer service.
Not the first election, but you're very, very good with people, and I know that in your position you sometimes have to say no a lot, but you do it so well, and you've been very helpful for me, helping with constituents and everything. So you're not too far away. Please come back and visit. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. It's been, I'm shocked. I didn't find out about this till right now, so I truly am shocked to hear this, but good for Raleigh. They're going to be real happy with that hire. I just want to thank you for all these strange meetings that I've had you attend, usually at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. People want to do all sorts of weird things in Morrisville, and it's usually Shannon at the other side of the table vetting these things. And you always did it very professionally, always with a smile. People, no matter what the answer was, they always felt like they were getting the truth, and they were, I think, more satisfied, even though they didn't necessarily get what they wanted. So that's if we can all do that, that's a huge accomplishment. So hats off to you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for Morrisville. We do appreciate it, and I know the development community will miss you.
Thank you. You guys have been all great to work with, and I'm sure I might work with some of you again in the future.
All right, let's get to work. Sorry.
Throw away the handkerchief.
I'd like to recognize Shannon as well. The planning department is a very busy place. But I can tell you from my experience, if I needed to know something, I could count on her. I could call her and get an answer, or she would direct me where I needed it, and I appreciate that very much. Nothing wrong with the planning department, but I can count on Shannon. If I needed to find something, she would help me get to it. So thank you very much.
All right, sit down and have some. Enjoy your last day. Get out of here.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
The other item is the happy news. If you haven't picked up your mail, we are on the cover of the Parks and Recreation State Magazine for our accreditation. So
Yeah.
please get your copy.
Is that
And
no
take a look
crappa?
at that.
What's it called? No crappa?
NCRPA.
Yes.
Yay.
So that's in your boxes.
Very nice.
And great article.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
Jeannie?
All right. So ready to rock and roll. Everybody take a deep breath, because we're talking about CIP. So tonight, good things that are coming. That's right. It's all about investing in our community. So welcome to CIP land. Logistics, hope everybody knows the bathrooms are just outside the hall. We are not going to provide breaks, so if you need to leave, just please do so. Because we have an ice storm we're trying to beat tonight, right?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't like the drinks that are provided, there's a drink machine down the hall. You just have to have some change. Tony Chiatakas might have some for you. Project concept binders, they're at your place. Hopefully some of you actually picked them up earlier today. If you're like me, get your magnifying glass out and take a look at it. There are page numbers that are on there. So as council starts diving into some projects, please make sure that you reference the project profiles that are in here. There's a lot of detail in there that might help you either answer some questions or ask questions. So we have a volunteer timekeeper. And who is that? That's Mr. Rich back there. He's going to hopefully remind us that 7:30 is going to approach. That's when we're going to do a little check-in with you guys to see if we need to move forward, see how we're doing. Maybe somebody needs to do a weather check. And just make sure that we keep progressing forward tonight. Because there's a lot of projects. Yes, sir.
If it takes till after 10, it'll be all over with. So.
Is that what it is?
Hey, there we go.
All right, so what are we going to talk about tonight? So mainly a retreat. You guys asked to have a Q&A with staff. So what we have here tonight is a collection of all your project leaders that to develop these materials to help develop these projects for you. So they're the players, we got the right players in the room to be able to ask some key questions. But what we want to do, because we have so many projects, is we want to focus on the ones, we're going to spend our time investment tonight and really look at the ones you really want to ask questions about. Because there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of details in the project profiles. And then there's just a few that staff has actually selected that they want to provide a little additional information. Okay? In the end, what we would like to try to walk away from tonight or glean from your conversation, are there any concepts that you want to modify? Any that maybe we can combine because they just make sense to combine? Anything to add? Or perhaps remove? Again, 32 projects is a lot. Okay? So everybody good with this so far? In the end, we're going to take just a quick, hopefully, before we leave tonight, just take a little preview of the policy itself that will come forward on March 10th next week. Okay? So,
Yeah, thank you.
I got little notes here.
Jeannie?
Yes, sir.
And maybe you're about to cover this, but the whole sidewalk, sidewalk piece of projects and kind of road, non-bond funded road things like that. Is that going to be talked about conceptually, or how are those part of this process?
So we can talk about those if there's something we need to be adding. There's a list of sidewalks that's actually on it. of other types of projects that aren't necessarily true capital investment projects. We're probably getting segments of sidewalks through other means, which would be through Campo grants. So there would be an opportunity to talk about
Okay.
some of those other things. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's just as a group agree on a couple of things tonight before we get started on the projects. Number one, I'm going to ask you to tell me what projects you want. So I'm going to do that first and get it out of the way. I'm going to do a little checklist. But let's agree, hopefully, staff's got a suggestion that town center, you're already talking about town center projects. You actually already have things in the work with MSD. And you already have Northwest Park is actually in the design progress. So how about we take those, pick them up, and put them over here? Because you're going to be talking about them. And let's focus on the other projects. How's that sound?
What does that mean if we put them over here?
Yeah, no,
Well,
so
I'd
let
like to
me,
say that.
let me add on, and I'll add a couple more. Crabtree, Hatcher, McCrimmon Parkway Extension. We as staff are already working on major work session topics and comprehensive information that we're filtering to you through some of the work sessions. So what I think we're saying is we already know that they're priorities because we're working on them, and we don't think we're going to get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tonight. So we're just suggesting with just a limited 2.5 hour time to talk about projects, you're going to be getting that information naturally anyways. And so park those, just not to spend time tonight talking about it. We want to make sure you're getting information on the others. That's really the recommendation. It's not that they're not important. In fact, they're probably very, very important. Just don't think we should spend the time tonight spending time talking about them.
Certainly if somebody has something that they need to get clarified on any of those, sure.
Run through your list again, Jean.
Yeah,
So-
maybe we could.
Town center, good idea. Thank you.
That way we will visually look at them and not tell you about them.
So am I getting council to agree that town center is coming, or we're working on that? MSD, certainly in progress, in motion with Huntington Park starting this month. And
Northwest Park.
Northwest Park, because we have design in progress, and that will come back to you.
And Crabtree, Hatchet Creek, Greenway. These are kind of the things that we talked at the retreat, and we sort of had consensus that
Right.
these are things that are in the pipeline already,
Right.
and that we were,
They're not new. They're
so we're
in
kind of
progress.
already committed to sort of
Town center's the last
moving them
item.
forward unless something
I got that.
Well,
happens.
there's like
Well, and
a lot
I'll
of
do some
related.
more.
McCrimmon
Town
bypass.
center, there's probably half a dozen projects. And I think, if you hearken back to the town center plan, there was an implementation timeline. Right now, we're on that core. And those others sort of were later on the implementation timeline anyways, is just a thought.
So as an example, town center parking lot, would that be included in this town center, or is that outside?
Actually, that is included in town center, but staff does have a minor update that they want to provide on that one. So we do have that on check for us to give you a little bit of information.
I thought it,
How about the Christian church parking lot? Is that on the town center, or is that, it's within it, but
That is not.
nowhere.
I was under the impression like.
technically it is.
It's not part of the-
It wasn't part of the town center plan.
If everybody flips to page 129, there is a relationship matrix in the back that tells you what plan, what project belongs to, or plans. Some of them are more than one. So it'll give you a quick reference of what projects we feel are town center related projects. Okay? So one of the other things, do we have an agreement that maybe we put these over to the side unless you have a burning question, because we have the project leader here tonight. But for the most part, let's focus on the other projects and what you really need to talk about. And let's put these over here for now. And we'll deal with that as we go.
So like the Main Street Park and all that, that would be, because recently we've had discussions about the Main Street Square and Main Street, so all those things correlating to that. But where do we stand with like the recreation center and the senior activity center. Do we want to still talk about those things? Because there's options of possibly combining them, but,
They're not location dependent, so I would say that's fair game.
okay.
I would say I have that on my list.
We're bringing you an update on MAFC that is going to come separate. So we are already working on that, and I think that you probably need that report before you can talk about a senior center or a recreation center.
And I agree. However, I'd still like to talk about it because we haven't had an opportunity to really expand it a little.
So, as we said, if you desire that there's something you need to talk about in any of these categories, certainly as we go, when I ask you for those
Okay.
projects, we'll check them off. But that was just a suggestion of staff, is that we do know these are in the pipeline. There's more,
good.
there's stuff underway. You're going to have information come back to you. So that's why we were wanting to maximize our time on the things that we probably don't talk a lot about. Okay? Is everybody still in agreement for the most
Yes.
part, so we can move forward? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so another suggestion that I have to try to get agreement on before we get going is our objective tonight, and just moving forward, before we can progress to the next step of CIP planning, is we really have to decide, or council has to decide, what are your projects? And sometimes that is that you have to put aside, well, how do we fund it? What year does it come in? And you have to put aside even existing projects. Oh, did you raise even existing projects that are in there. History's great and all, but we have to focus on what do we want our CIP to be today. So let's focus on going forward. What do we want those projects to look like? So can we agree to put maybe how things have changed over here, and let's focus on what are the projects today. Not worry so much about how are we going to fund it, but what are the projects that you want to invest in, and to tell us how do we, so we can work to plan for them. Can we agree for that?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You okay with that?
I'm okay.
My slide.
Until something comes up, but yeah.
I mean, we're going to get to those conversations, but before you can get to that, you really got to know what's in the pot. And we have to know what's in the pot so that we can start working and planning. How does that look? What can we do with it? What's the timing of it? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. All right, so everybody wants to go to the checkoff part. All right. First, I'm going to show you what the tool looks like, and then I'm going to go back and start from the beginning. I have them grouped by 4 major categories. So facilities, parks and greenways, roads, and stormwater. So I'm going to put them up to in front of you like this. The other one. And so forth. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk about facility projects just briefly. We have a couple of new projects. We have some projects that the naming mechanism has changed a little bit or have been combined in the past. So giving you a little note, giving you a page reference. The yes is staff has an update for you. So we do want to talk about those. The stars, hopefully, are things you just agreed to maybe put over here because they're coming. Okay? So who's the first to offer up a check mark? Which one would you like to talk about first? Anyone?
The parking lot for
The
historic.
first one. I'm with you on that.
Christian Church? Look at that. Let's make sure we focus on what you really need information on. Anything else under facilities? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm a little lost as to the program here.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
What, are we going to talk about these or just?
Yes, we are. I'm going to go through and check off all of them.
Okay.
Make sure everybody has buy-in to the list of the projects we're going to agree to talk about. And then I'm going to go back and open the floor back
Not
up.
necessarily support going forward with, just talk about it.
Yes, you're not expressing support. You're just needing information from your project leaders.
Okay.
So we're going to go through the
Public
entire
works.
list.
Public
Public
Works facility.
How many people raised their hand on that one?
And recreation center and senior activities.
Senior Activity Center, yeah.
These two?
They have stars though, so what is that? You said-
Stars is their part of town center,
Okay.
so that's okay. You feel you really need some conversation on that, so.
we haven't talked about the deck. We
I
need to do some more.
did want to talk about the town center gateway ever so briefly, but just,
Just touch on it, give
Yeah.
an idea, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I had that on my list.
All right, so far we have.
I had a
historic-
question.
Yes, sir.
The Northwest Fire Station, I have a question about it, so.
Northwest Fire Station, you do? Okay. We're gonna check them all off.
we might
All
be
right,
there.
I'm gonna press you to move.
Ice is coming, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna check off, we have something to
Freezing
share on this one. And the other one that staff wants to talk about is the town center parking lot, just a little bit of information to give you. So I'm gonna move forward to the next grouping. Are you ready?
Okay.
Bring it on.
Hurry up.
Here we go. Vanna's ready.
Cedar Fork, ball field.
Okay. The things you most want to talk about.
Rural Heritage Park.
Yes, ma'am.
Crabtree Creek Nature Park.
This one.
Main Street Park, Veterans Memorial.
And staff
Sports
wants to talk about the
facilities.
sports
Okay,
good.
facilities.
And Crabtree Crossing Greenway connection.
Oh, why not go for the Civil War battle?
No, I got a question about that one too.
Which one?
Crabtree Crossing Greenway connection.
Okay. So how are we doing? We're good? Ready to roll?
No, number 41.
She wants to,
I actually had Sawmill Creek Greenway, but I'll pass.
So our timekeeper's going to tell us at 7:30, right?
I'll pass. All right, I'll pass.
All right, moving
Get
forward.
out of here.
Public roadways.
yes.
Now, you see a lot of these are actually MSD, so putting this over here.
Yes,
I only have one I want to talk about. Southport Drive Extension?
that one, yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's a yes and a yes.
I had
Yes, sir.
a question. When we met a couple, I guess, several weeks ago, what did we decide or talk about for like road maintenance and those type of projects? I can't remember. Was that part of this? We decided to take that out of.
And you're covering your roadway maintenance through your operating funds. Now, we're still going to come back and talk about road prioritization and how you want to integrate it with CIP. We just aren't ready for that yet.
And along the same lines then, these little pockets where we could go back and maybe improve it, like in Morrisville or Aviation in 54, we're contemplating.
That's going to become part of the road prioritization
But
protocols.
won't that start to get into money?
It will.
So should it be part of the CIP?
We don't have the prioritization protocols or the identified road enhancements yet to add in. But you're going to get that if you want to include it in the CIP when we bring forth that policy discussion.
So is that like saying we have a placeholder for what we'll just generically call miscellaneous road items or something? Or no?
CIPs really are meant to have projects, project scopes defined. We had placeholders a number of years ago, but that really doesn't communicate anything, and it's very difficult for staff to really effectively plan
You
and,
can't
and
fund
plan
or
for
plan
funding.
those.
But I thought, okay, I don't want to get bogged down. I thought what you were saying is you're working on it, but soon you'll have the prioritization so that we can then assess how we're going to pay for these things.
We have to bring forth a prioritization protocol, and then if you agree on that policy, it's likely to identify what things you want us to evaluate as ways to deal with what those road priorities are. Then, as Jeannie mentioned, we'll have to scope them, figure out costs before you could then prioritize, fund, and plan for them.
So that will influence us. You give us guidance that influences project creation at that point, so that we can bring you a project profile that has some context to it, that could become a tangible asset in the future. Does that answer your question?
So I think if we move this process forward to a certain point, we'll see that later, and we'll have to try to jam it in.
Well,
And that's why I said
influences
the
eventually.
placeholder, because there are a lot of things we want to do, but I also think we have to be mindful of our road projects.
Well, we're not asking you to prioritize tonight.
I understand.
We're trying to give you the information for that ultimate
I just
exercise.
don't want the road stuff to be forgotten.
So let's
That's all I'm
put
saying.
consideration of placeholders, and maybe, and how does that work with the road prioritization? this good?
Yeah.
Okay, and we can get information back to you. I can ask some other budgeteers in the world how they handle things like that and talk with perfect.
Jeannie, I have a
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
So we're going through this list and we're doing some selections, and I have a couple just for this slide.
Mhm.
But what about, you mentioned new, and there's some things that, as I was going through, I was thinking of that are not part of that fabulous four, and they're a little bit newer. Can we talk about those
I
at the
will
end?
have an option where I'm going to actually solicit information from you of what to add, remove, combine, modify, any ideas you
Okay,
want to provide
perfect.
us
So-
at the end.
So then my two items are
Okay.
the International Drive Extension
Yes,
and the Morrisville East Connector.
I truly feel like Nana.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What would connect International Drive to the future bypass? Which one of these is that?
Where's Blake?
It's
East-west
the,
connector connector.
yeah, it's
Which one is it?
Morrisville East.
Morrisville, you said the one that sort of checked off. Okay.
Okay, so we good? Let's move forward. Any other projects?
Just, and tell me that we'll talk about this later, Morrisville Carpenter Road.
It's a placeholder.
Under other projects, let's talk about that. There'll be a slide
Okay,
that we
all
can
right.
talk about. That could be something you give us guidance to add, to think about in terms of placeholders, and with the prioritization, road prioritization consideration of that.
Okay.
Okay, there's a slide. I don't have that spelled out, but that would be the opportunity to talk about it. Any other ones? Okay, am I missing any ones from staff now? Okay, stormwater. We do have one that staff would like to provide information on. Okay. Anything else? We good? All right. So historic Christian Church, let's just start from the top. Project leader is in the room. Which one is that? Rich?
I filled out the sheet. You of us in the time.
Rich is available for questions. So who had the question about historic Christian Church?
Was that you or me?
Well, I mean, I
put
think it
initials on.
expands the use, but I was just, what are some barriers right now to doing that? Is there any stormwater issues, or is that something that just would need regular funding? I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the scope.
Well, the scope, the Greer property was purchased last year with the intent that we'd be able to expand the parking for the facility. Currently, there's, I believe, 8 spaces, all of them are handicapped, so somewhat limits the types of events that can be held there. With some minor adjustments to the doors and the hardware, essentially, from a fire access standpoint, we can almost double the amount of capacity that the building can handle. The property, for the Greer property, we've analyzed, and it looks like we should be able to get a fairly good-sized parking lot. We're still working through some of the constraints, but anywhere between 30 and 40 spaces should be easily attainable, and that should accommodate stormwater, as well as we did purchase the property on the other side of Page Street, which was part of that transaction. So there's some land that we've set aside and identified there to serve that as well.
Great, thank you. Okay.
What's the parking going to be for other than that building? Will there be anything else there that we can use it for?
There's actually a few of the other projects. One is going to be proximate to town center in the future, the town center core area, but also the Sawmill Creek Greenway will be going through on the railroad side of Page Street, essentially. So we've identified that as another opportunity of this possibly kind of being combined with an additional trailhead area where the parking lot can be dual purpose, used for the Christian church as well as parking for everyone on that.
And it would also serve the walking loop as
Yeah.
well, which already exists.
You shouldn't be driving to the walking loop.
No, it depends if you're coming from
You can walk.
Breckenridge.
No, sorry.
Got to walk all the way.
Off-limits. Walk.
Quick question too. In here, it talks about increasing the occupancy from 49 to 99, so tell me how that's going to happen. It's actually an upgrade to the building, too?
Yes, that's what the hardware changes. I believe it's a fire code issue where there's one of the second doorway needs to be flipped around and open outwards in the event that there's an emergency. So really, that's the main.
So that has nothing to do with the parking, though?
We
Or
can't
is it-
accommodate,
It's a project.
we don't have the parking to accommodate
Right.
the use of the facility.
Currently, you have.
Well, we use across the street.
That's
Well,
We're not
private.
using, we're not planning
We have
to
no
use that
Very
any further.
limited,
I
that
agree.
provides about 10 parking spaces, and it's not a safe crossing for people to come across there. I mean, they'll have to go down to Scoggins and come across and come back up. It's just, it is, as you said, we can't continue to rely on the Baptist church to provide parking for our facility.
Okay, fair enough.
An additional comment there too. Currently, when the facility is utilized where they exceed those 8 parking spaces, we are borrowing spaces. It's not safe crossing the road. We have public works out there doing traffic control, so this will help eliminate some of those safety concerns as well.
And the more parking, there's a connection with just renting the facility more, because it will be sort of economic, benefit.
I'm sorry, so getting back to the occupancy, the building itself won't be, it's just the door issue.
Yeah, it's just a hardware
Okay.
issue, yes.
But you can house more people in it then.
No, I understand that,
I mean,
but I wanted
but
to
you're
clarify
doubling.
whether the building itself was going to be,
They're going to tear it down.
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
An extension of the road.
Yes.
Put a
Well-
senior
The
center.
historic nature of the church is preserved and the
Put a
only
tent
minor
up.
alterations.
Well, I
gazebo
think we
kind of
need to
thing.
be mindful of the property itself, because if you put a tent out there, I mean, there's lots of opportunities.
A special use permit.
I love it.
Anyhow, okay, I'm good.
Any other questions?
That's good, thank you.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna move forward. I just pulled up the worksheet in case anybody had any questions. Okay, so the next one we're gonna talk about Northwest Fire Station. I believe,
Oh, I had a question on, is this one where we could, if we, I think you listed the property as $250,000? Could we land bank that for, with Wake County Schools? Isn't that what we're trying to do? And then they could they want to build an elementary school on the other side.
Yeah, it's a 30-acre tract, and they want 25 acres, and we want 5 acres, but we would purchase the land from RTP separate, because we don't want the county to purchase it, we buy it from them because they would sell it at our cost than the RTP would. So it's about 50,000 per acre that we would have to purchase from RTP. But we do want to work together in developing the site with Wake County.
How far are they moving along on their school?
They, that project there has dropped down a little bit because when they did the environmental study, they realized they would have to put in more infrastructure to cross the stream. And they actually came to us and proposed to have an entrance and exit on Little Drive and not have a cut through to Breckenridge. And we told them that would be a deal breaker for us. If we didn't have the cut through, it would not be a strategic location to respond to the Breckenridge area. So they're reworking it and trying to come up with a way that we can have that street go all the way through the Little Drive to Breckenridge. So it's for them, they still want to go ahead and purchase the land. The actual construction phase is not as aggressive as they initially wanted to.
Okay, and so it's not a deal breaker if we go there or not. They're going to do it anyhow. They'll buy their portion of the
That's
property.
correct.
Okay.
But we want to work together because there's an opportunity to
Right.
share in some of the planning and infrastructure costs. So we're still working with them. It's just a little bit delayed. We're trying to overcome the stream issue.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
Chief, the sign that's out there on, I guess, Little Stevens, is that considered the Cisco site?
It is considered a Cisco site, and obviously they donated that land for us, and according to the agreement, if we don't ever use that for a fire station, we would give it back to Cisco.
Okay, and where is the little drive, if you can give me the,
If you go up Davis Drive
right,
towards RTP and turn left
right,
on Little Drive,
right,
you would go probably 3/4 mile, it'd be the land, and we're talking about the 30-acre site. You know, see it
that's
there.
before you even go back under 540?
It's before you get to Little Stevens.
Okay.
It's way before you get to Little
Yeah.
Stevens.
Is it on the right or left side of
It's
the
on
road?
the left if you're going towards
It's on
Little
the Breckenridge side?
Yeah, and if you go in Parkside Valley, Breckenridge, you can see it's a
Okay.
saber tooth thing.
so here's a
Next one.
map.
Okay.
Here's our boundaries, our corporate limits. Here's the
My
little-
wife says I'm not good at maps, so.
Well, this one is a little fuzzy, so.
Would we share the fire station with Cary, like we're doing in number 3 now?
No,
They have no need to be out there?
nope. We've offered it to them, and they just don't have a need to be out there.
So we'll still be serving the ETJ, like Wake County area? Is that the,
Yes, we would, and, certainly that would include RTP,
Durham side.
Wake County side.
But how about the Durham side? Would you take a call if you had to go into
Well,
Durham side?
we do that now,
Okay.
closest unit response, that's
Yeah.
part of our agreements, but we would, if our companies are available to have a call Durham, we would respond, we do that now. But I'll just let you know, we get talked to everybody about partnering this fire station. I've talked to Durham County Fire Protection, I've talked to the city of Durham, I've talked to Wake County Sheriff's Department, that thought it'd be a good satellite station for them. So there's been a lot of discussions, but none of them see a need, to partner with us at this point.
and we can't get any closer to our city limits? It's pretty much the best land available right there.
Well, it's not that we can't get closer, but, our current site that we own, Cisco donated, that's the reason it's not what I would call the first choice, because it's not as close to the city. This actually puts us much closer. We map all our responses and look at the areas that we can. And this location would be a strategic place. If we obviously don't want to cut too far to the city, because then we overlap with the other stations, which is not as beneficial as getting the most coverage.
Okay.
One more. Does it help with any response times from your measurements into Kids Creek? If you go down Davis, turn?
It does help what we call effective response force, especially with the road cut through, so it would help.
And then I think the town had plans that, we'd like to see Little Road continue through, so it might even help Providence if you could.
And truly, the more connectivity we have, the better our response time we get. And we can show it to you on our map, and we do, it's very clear. You can see the calls don't get to in time, and a lot of it's just a lack of road network.
Other questions?
Oh, when we go through the tool and the criteria, are we allowed to ask questions on that? or-
Certainly.
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but one thing that I was having a hard time, and maybe it's a stupid question, is on the criteria extent to which project enhances economic development in the town or indirectly adds to the tax base. I just was a little confused as to, how do we weigh that criterion with the fire station and some of these projects? Am I missing something here? Is it?
It's
I'm not sure I understand the question.
What-
this particular criteria he's asking a question about, number 5, correct?
Yeah.
Economic impact.
Economic impact. Is that just from?
How did you determine
How did you
the
determine
score?
that? And you don't have to answer it. I just was curious about that
It's not a
criteria.
development that's going to attract development to the town. It's providing services
Okay.
to existing.
You're saying it has
Increase
little
our
impact.
tax
Little impact.
base.
Okay.
Which kind of makes
All right.
sense for a fire station.
Okay.
Like if there wasn't any coverage at all, it could, but since we already sort of have it covered, this is a better strategy.
I was probably
than
reading
changing
it
the
wrong.
place.
The
It's
public
marginally
station
better.
is going to be
It's,
actually
that's a
everybody
very low
versus
score.
rainforest.
Oh, okay.
That being the
New house
highest, that
rating
being the
will
lowest.
affect it.
Has the
They're
impact.
saying it
Okay.
doesn't have an impact,
It now
which makes
affects
sense.
homeowners, so the better coverage we have in the town, the lower ISO rating, the less fire insurance premiums people pay on their properties, that's includes both commercial and residential.
Thank you.
I understand. I'm sorry. I read it wrong. So I see it as little impact. I just got confused because it said 8.6%. So I'm like, but it says little. Okay. I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, good question. Okay. Next item, police and fire training facility. I'm going to suggest allow Todd to provide you with a little bit of an update before you jump into your questions. It might help clarify some things.
So just want to make you aware that the CIP for this actually includes both a local training center and a regional training center. So we have a need for a local training center that's where we do what we call our annual in-service training. And again, this is a public safety training center, police and fire. If you look at it right now, the police department and fire department, we're scattered where we do our in-service training. Police department, for example, they've been to Wilson, they've been to Sanford. Of course, they do some of their firearms training at RDU. They do it out at the Shanahan's nuclear power plant. We're the same way. We do some of our in-service training at Shanahan's nuclear power plant, and we've sent folks to Charlotte, but there is a need for a local training center, and we have been working with, and this is an update from what's on that sheet there, with Apex, Cary, and Morrisville. Both the police departments and fire departments with jurisdiction have, we're at a state point where we're ready to ask for design cost for that local training center. The primary site would be a site that is 25 acres that the town of Cary owns. It's located on what would be the future Morrisville Parkway and the 540 interchange. So keep in mind, this local training center is really designed for us to do most of our in-service training, our annual in-service training. But it won't be designed to meet what we call our specialty training, whether it be active shooter training, Chief Jones, what do you call it when y'all follow the bad guys in the car, pursuit training, driver training, that kind of stuff. We will not have these resources at a local center, but there still is a need for a regional training center. Of course, the regional training center is a project that the Triangle J partners are part of. The good thing about this is it would be minimal cost for us because our percentage would be low. But so we're recommending that we consider participating in both. Now, the regional training center, big question mark as to when that would come to fruition. But right now, they're in the strategic planning phase, which is phase 2 of that project. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Questions?
Okay, so this is not a regional training facility anymore, this item.
It actually includes both. It includes both the local and the regional.
Okay.
But you can split the,
We could,
from a CIP
Right.
perspective, you could split out the local and the regional if you choose, if this is a project that floats to the
internally, we've talked about it. Maybe it needs to kind of separate.
Well, I was going
If
to
we
say
had to
because,
prioritize them, we would definitely recommend the local just because we get more out of that.
I know, because I've attended some of the Triangle J meetings where they've actually come and presented about that regional training center. So we know it's coming, but there's no timeline or.
Yeah, there's a lot more moving parts to that project that I think will be much later down the road.
But this would be less moving part. This would be a
The
local.
local is, we're asking for design money in 16. So that's how close that is.
and so what is that? Because you're not asking for this money anymore now. So
Well,
clearly it's a different number.
The original request for this year for design was going to be $75,000, but I just got some additional information today, and that is Apex is now a partner in this. When we actually had to update this originally, they had not verified it, so we had to assume. So, for example, it says our cost is 15%. Well, as of this week, but Apex confirming it's now dropped down to 10%. So our design cost for our share would be $55,000.
Who's actually leading this effort?
So the way
Cary
what we're doing is Cary is going to ask for 100% of the funding in their budget, and then for Apex and Morrisville, we would reimburse them. And so Cary's taking the lead. Of course, as part of this project, there would be a governance policy that we would all have to agree to. That would be a big part of that project.
How come nobody else is on board? What about Holly Springs? Is too far away, or even Fuquay?
Well, Fuquay is close to sharing the power plant, so
Okay.
I don't think it would be.
And Holly Springs is right there.
Yeah, Holly Springs actually is
they're
closer
right there.
too.
This used to be the way I would drive to work every day when I lived in Holly Springs.
So would this get us more than just less driving time to our in-service trainings?
Yeah, because see, there truly is some training that we need to be doing that doesn't get done. I'll just give you an example. You look at that high-speed driving that you talked about. We really need to be doing some of that every year, but the logistics to do that, it doesn't get done but every 4, 5, 6 years. And same way with fire department, there's a lot of training we need to be doing every year. When we burn an acquired structure, for example, how infrequently do those happen? Once every year or 2 years. So, with a training center, we'd be doing that half a dozen times a year or more, and we need to be doing that. So there's training we're not doing, we really need to be doing. It's just because we don't have the resources, or, you know, we go down to the Wake County Training Center once a year. But to do that, we have to schedule that about a year in advance. And the way it works is the crew, they get off duty that morning, and they stay down there for 8 hours. So that's all overtime pay. We have to factor in our budget that for the local training center, you do the training while you're on duty. But we can't go down to the Wake County Training Center all on duty, because then there would be no protection in town. So.
Okay.
And still police and fire in service training.
It is, this project is a police and fire training center. It would have indoor shooting range. It would have a driving course. It would have a place where they can do what they call simulation training. But it would be for police and fire.
Other question? Oh, sorry.
So in Durham, they have their own training facility too, like Raleigh goes to Wake County?
Raleigh has their own training center. The problem with Raleigh is they're not willing to let other people train their facility. They feel like they need it and don't open it up to anybody else. Durham City has a training center, however, like for example, our recruits, we actually send them to North Durham for their recruit training. Again, this will be an opportunity to have them closer to home. And you know, part of the problem is because we partner with this academy with the city of Durham, town of Chapel Hill, and Durham Tech Community College. But when we do extrication training, and we have to take our extrication truck over there, because that's the equipment they need, for example.
Right.
I mean, that truck's out of service for us. If we get an extrication, it's not the strategic location respond to help us. So with this local training center, we would not have those problems that we currently have.
Okay, then back to if Apex is in this, then can I assume everything goes down 5% or just the initial cost?
Yes, no, everything. So again, this is updated information. It's not on the sheet, but the way it would be a phase-in where in 16 we do design, which is $550,000 total, and we're paying 10% of that. And then in 17 we would carry with program $3 million, and again we would do 10% of that. And then in 18 they're going to program $7 million, and we would do 10% of that. So if you look at the total cost, it's not much different. Partly because when we first estimated this, we didn't include development cost for roads that don't exist out there. And so now they've included this, but realize that some of that could be paid by other development. But for planning purposes now, we've added the development cost.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll update this information as soon as Jeannie's here. This is the first time tonight. This out.
Yes,
update
that's
this.
why I'm feverishly writing all this down.
I'll get with you to let me update
Yes.
that and
I know you will.
tomorrow for next week.
I just wanted to offer, Ira, did you have other things to add? This is kind of a tandem between police and fire for this project. I think you kind of touched on some of your main points. But
Must have questions.
other questions? Good? Public Works Facility.
Yes.
This is Blake's favorite subject. Blake does have some updated information that he might want to provide that could help your questions. Did you want to go first?
Well, I think most of it's actually right in the.
Did you, I think Tony.
What's that?
I think that what I want to kind of lay to the council is that in looking at all of the options, and Blake has done, I think, a very good job of trying to look at different options. But in the real world, in the ideal world, moving the public works facility off of that site should probably be our direction. To try to stay on the site and bring it up to par. I think we could get a larger bang for our buck by finding a better piece of land more strategically located. We've done some scouting around and have located some sites that might be amenable. And what we're really needing is authorization from the council to start moving forward and having discussions with landowners. We've held off trying to have any in-depth discussions with landowners until we've had a chance for the council to kind of sift through it and get your feedback to us. But the real need is to move forward on securing the site. The actual construction could be phased in later years, but with the cost of with the economy improving, the cost is going up. Obviously, construction costs are going up, all those kind of things. But That's all really relative. I'm more concerned with land going away as the economy does improve and other people are investing in Morrisville. So that's really our thrust is to try to, if the council is willing, is to allow us to move forward and start having some discussions with folks in obtaining some property.
And there is an interconnection potentially if we do relocate to another site that you could either repurpose the public works site for the fire station or local fire police training facility. That's a note that's put on, I think, both of them. So I'm just going to point that out a little bit. Or you could surplus it.
And put it back into the open market.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm of the belief that we've outgrown, that we need a new public works facility in terms of just, we've outgrown it, I think. I mean, I was there recently, and I think they're doing some refurbishing and things like that, but I think there's just running out of office space and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I definitely think that we've got to move in that direction. My concern is in the interim. You're basically just asking us for, direction on site, looking at sites where we would move it.
And that would be the obviously a first priority. Again, it really falls into the priority of the council moving forward with a new facility, and then staff being able to work up plans of how to do that.
The existing project was a renovation project, so staff's trying to ask you now, do you want it to continue to be a renovation, or do you want to change this and modify this project to be a relocation? Because there's different things that have to occur to be able to do either one of them. One note you might want to talk about is the road improvement investment is so sizable, and which could potentially, you want to keep going with that one?
Well, for the cost of the road improvements and then to bring the site up to an adequate elevation, we could purchase a piece of property that we wouldn't have to do all that with.
So to be clear, there are road improvements along Aviation that are needed in order to even update the building because of the way that the roads are not,
right. The intersections
perpendicular and stuff
Correct.
like that.
The intersections are not aligned. Our development requirements would, obviously require us to widen Aviation Parkway to its design standards. And another thing that you have to factor into that is, it's the idea, and this is what we're considering in the renovation discussion, that while this renovation is being, quote, implemented, we still have to have Public Works operating. So we would have to find another location for them to go to, because when we're talking about renovation, we're not talking about just renovating buildings. We're talking about leveling the buildings and bringing the site up 2 or 3 feet in elevation, and then putting the buildings back on there. So it's quite an undertaking in order to get that squared away. For us to use all the property that's there and to expand and be ready to take on and support all of the projects that the town will be doing over the next 20 years.
So Jeannie, do we talk about that now?
That could be something you consider whenever I bring up the slides for notes on modifications.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're
So
following
collect your thoughts, and then we're going to challenge you with those questions in the end as a wrap-up and takeaway.
Another one on that, it says 2020 for the acquisition cost, but you're thinking sooner.
We certainly would like to go sooner on the land acquisition. But
That's
again,
1.3 million
it all has to
approximately?
get plugged into the revenue availability and the overall plan.
Other questions?
If we were going to repurpose it, though, for the police and fire training center, we'd still have the same elevation issues, right?
Not necessarily, because those buildings, the way they're used, except for the classroom part, would not have to be as they could withstand flooding more so than what we can with our public works facility.
So the road improvements wouldn't be necessary either?
Where's Ben? There's a possibility we may have to do some road improvements there.
And is Kerry on board with that location? Are they still willing to front the money and do everything?
Well, I think this will be an expansion of the local facility.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at that site as an alternate site. So, I couldn't answer your question if that was the site when you move forward with it, if they would still want to take the lead and fully fund it. I don't know the answer to that right now, but, you know, we have looked at that site as an option. And actually, at one point, that was kind of a lead site until we found this 25 acres that the town of Cary already owns. It's more suitable, we think, because I think the public works site was, what, 10 acres?
13.
13 acres, so.
The other part in the repurposing, I mean, and I don't know if we want to get into all that aspect of it, but, you know, Wake County has indicated an interest in expanding their recycling facility, or their convenience center. So there's some interest in that aspect of it as well. So, or it could be put on the market, and a contractor doing the same type of work that Public Works does could move in and utilize the facility. So
Tony, did you say you identified sites?
we have looked at sites in and around the area.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think it's obvious with the price tag here, this would have to be a bond item. And I know that there's we just talked to Davenport, and I'm not sure if it was 2020, 2021, whatever, which would be the next available time frame.
Around that.
But I just think I think we would need to be a little more thoughtful about just saying, Tony, go for it, knowing that the end result, though, would be that we'd have to float a bond for this. We'd have to have the voters approve a bond, and I feel like we're getting a little ahead of ourselves without further discussion on that piece of it and how that might work or not work.
And I think that we're certainly not asking you to release tonight. We haven't looked at things, but I think that as you're planning your capital improvement projects and you're ordering up your priorities, certainly how they're going to be financed is of a lot of importance. If the consensus is to move forward with the Public Works facility, then the first phase of that could be the land acquisition. That part wouldn't have to be may not have to be a bond issue, right. And then it could be paid back when the bonds were sold at some point. But I think the idea, the concept of are we going to stay where we are and operate out of what we are for the next 10, 15 years, or are we going to move to modernizing and updating that facility to keep up with the growth the town already has had, plus what it will continue to have over the next several years, is more the critical decision.
So the key decision tonight would be the philosophy about the Public Works facility and really the decision to land bank, because we could not execute on a new build at this time because of the construction costs. Okay.
And if we were to buy new land and eventually build there, that would be end state Public Works facility. We would never have to.
We are not
improve it
anticipating
again.
having to move again.
Okay.
And that's why we've been strategic about where the piece of land might be.
Okay.
And if you buy the land and the bond doesn't work for whatever reason,
it's another park.
No,
I'm not saying
we need a new
I think
facility.
if you think like that, you're going to shortcut yourself in trying to do anything.
We have to represent all sorts of different thoughts here. So I'm just throwing out maybe something not a very popular thought, certainly not my personal thought, but I'm just thinking ahead. It reminds me a little bit about other things we've done where we kind of get ahead of, and it's almost like we're committed then, even though, we're going to drag the public into something that we've already committed to without floating it by them. I just think we need to be careful about saying, go ahead and start talking to people, and 2 months from now you come back and go, okay, I need $1.5 million for land, and we haven't even vetted the end result of that discussion.
And I don't think we're going to do that. I think what we're trying to find out tonight is, one, or not tonight, but through your CIP process, that the project would be a relocation of Public Works to a better site. And then discussion on how that might be implemented. So.
Can we also consider, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Can we also consider other land assets we own and factor that in, that if we do end up selling some property or land that we have, that we could take that revenue and reprioritize, that's another option to consider.
And we're not you're not giving your blessing to these projects yet.
Right.
Necessarily tonight. You're asking questions. and you're trying to whittle that list down a little bit to make it more manageable, more representative. So just keep that in mind. But those are good questions to ask, because some of you have been here a while. You've heard me say this. If you keep deferring things, eventually they become necessities, and they actually become more expensive. And I think if you watch this particular project over the life that it's been in our CIP, it's progressively changed in scope and progressively gotten more and more expensive.
Yeah, so if we don't go down this road, the cost could go up.
And we won't have land.
Yeah.
And if there's ever anything that fits the definition of a CIP, this is it. And there's a couple other. But.
Another way to fund this would be with land that we have now, like you suggested. But that land is, we're only using 3.96 acres of 13.71. So we have about 9.7 lands, or 9.7 acres of land that's undeveloped that we could sell those lands now and perhaps fund buy new land with some of those.
You could sell the whole thing and just lease it back from the person until you move.
Yeah, it's not an interesting scenario, yeah.
So you
I think this part of the discussion is we're really not into how we're going to do it. It's more of, is this a project that floats to the top 5, we'll put it that way, or just, whatever the numbers are that you pick, is really what we're trying to get to.
And the answer for me is yes. I think this is definitely one of those projects that needs to be addressed, and council needs to address it. We've gone on way too long. The facility, like Steve started the conversation, the facility is, we outlived that facility years ago, and it's important that we address this and address it sooner than later, or not any later anymore. We've already done the later.
Blake went to a lot of trouble to really, he worked hard on this, to provide you with alternative solutions, just talk and discuss about whether you stayed there, what would that cost look like, what would the facility sort of look like, and a concise description as he possibly could. So in your work materials, there's 2 alternates, and then the recommendation of relocation.
Right.
Okay. So he's trying to think all the angles.
And we did, Blake did utilize an outside source, a third-party consulting company to come in and actually do an assessment, a needs assessment. So it's not just staff looking at it and saying, hey, this is what we think we need. We try to get an objective viewpoint.
And that was really a catalyst for why it's shifting a little bit more towards a relocation recommendation from staff. Yes, sir?
The only thing I'd bring up, it scored pretty low on the thing, so you might want to think why on your evaluation.
It's not sexy. It's not a park. It's not a.
Well, I know,
It's not a greenway,
but
it's
compared to what we just talked about, it was 10 points under the fire facility. But I'm just saying that as the public looks at these things and look at scores, it's one of the things I think. That's all. I'm not asking for inflation, but I'm just comparing it to what maybe other people inflated.
It's a good point. It's like we know as a council, it's really a critical part of our town and how we're, the roads and everything. It's all intertwined. But how does it score is a public perception.
I will say that, in my opinion, over the last 2 years, I would say, maybe a little longer than that, the public has been increasingly impressed with how responsive the Public Works Department is in Morrisville. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from even residents, not only in Morrisville, but around the region. So I think that's something to maybe to educate the public that when you get a snowstorm and you're snowed in your street, that it's this department that's coming, working around the clock, and you're making sure that you can drive out safely.
I think the mayor said it aptly. It's not a sexy project. It's not something that catches it. But this is part of your critical infrastructure of operating the town. And that's what you get paid the big bucks for. While you want good public input and so forth, sometimes there are things that come along. The public just isn't as attentive.
That's why we use the critical thinking model, and it's supposed to help us try to pull these types of projects off the bottom of the floor, but it's not perfect because these are not most attractive to the community. But in the end, it's council's will whether this project is pulled up here in your prioritization decisions, and oftentimes that's what you see at work in other municipalities. It may have scored down here, but in your ultimate decisions, you shift the of what needs to be funded.
And when does that take place?
So after we determine what the pool of projects are, we're going to work towards moving towards that step with council. So that'll be hopefully very soon, depending on what the results are tonight and your will going forward. Okay, moving forward.
First slide.
Okay, y'all just did a policing check on yourselves about the time, thanks to Councilmember Garner.
Talking.
I think he was saying, we're moving slow. This is a good conversation, and, for what it's worth, it's very good. So next one, questions? Senior Activity Center.
I'm the one that mentioned this, and I know that we're going to cover it later, but I was just wondering, there was a statement in the description about possibly getting grants to assist with construction funding. I was wondering if that holds true for whether it's a standalone senior center or if it's maybe in addition to an existing building or a future existing building, like the MAFC or like a library, for example.
Jerry is the project.
Those are, that's a question that we have to do more research into, quite honestly. What those sources could be. There's 2 or 3 out there, resources for seniors in Raleigh, has some contacts, there's some federal programs. The projects I'm familiar with that they've been used on have been freestanding centers.
Okay.
So I'm not aware of any that were a combination or additions, but it's not to say that it couldn't be if
Right.
the dedicated use was for that. It's the ones I'm familiar with are not.
Okay. I want to have our money used as best we can, and grants really help it go a lot further. So sometimes when we're looking at everything, it could fall out because it is currently listed at $3 million. So just trying to look at alternate ways to move it forward and getting more money.
Other questions?
Is the focus really on a new facility? I know there's like one sentence in here that says, maybe we can find space in another location. I'm making that up. I forget the exact wording here. Other locations could be an alternative to a new facility. Are we really looking at that too as an alternate, or are we focusing only on a new?
There's several different options, but what that sentence is referring to is the previous concept profile is for a recreation center, town center area, and if you read that description included what was said, dedicated space for seniors. In that scenario, it's part of a larger facility and would be only a couple thousand square feet probably dedicated for seniors. This project shows if council preferred to do it as a separate facility, this would be a larger facility dedicated for seniors. Or another alternative, we talked earlier about the parking lot project at the Historic Christian Church. Could allow that site to serve either on an interim basis or longer term to help expand our senior program. Okay. So those are some of the options that we talk about. This would be a larger dedicated space than what we would have in a combination center if it were a freestanding center the way this was proposed, or on an interim basis we could try to move senior programs to something like the Historic Church if parking capacity would allow.
Sure. Okay.
And we're going to be briefed on the MAFC soon and
Right.
our options there, but there's also been the discussion of combining it. That's what you just said,
Right.
an option. And also the one thing I've heard Matt Lever say in the past is that we just simply can't, even if you had more rooms in a senior center or a recreation center, we could run more camps and programs. That we just simply today don't have the space to run what the market's demanding. If they go to Morrisville schools or...
Our current recreation center at Cedar Forks, about 18,000 square feet, a little bit over 18,000. Of that, front classroom is about 1,100 square feet, and that's where primarily our senior programs are going on right now. It's about 1,100 square feet. This facility we're proposing here is around 4,000 square feet, probably about 3,000 of that would be actual program space. The rest would be support facilities, restrooms, storage buildings, and programs and offices. That's still 3 times the space that we have right now at Cedar Forks. If we did it as a combination in a recreation center, we're probably looking at 2,000 to 2,500 square feet dedicated space. Still double the
dedicated space for seniors, not, seniors in the morning, preschool in the afternoon, HOA meetings at night. The current space is just turned over for several different uses.
Other questions? So this is an example of one that you could potentially tell us, I don't want a dedicated space. I want you to consider it and combine it with something else that might be on the list. Just putting that out there just as, not to plant a seed with you, but as a suggestion that those are things you can think about to help give us direction at the end of the evening.
And this project profile was put together primarily to give council a picture of what a separate space could be. There's been a lot of talk over the years about seniors, and the growing senior population in town. When you look at our census data, what it's going to be over the next 10 years. And so when you look at that, this gives council an option to say, okay, what could it look like as a separate facility? Or what does it look like? You can look at the other profiles and say, now what does it look like combined somewhere else?
And which one would happen first, too? There are some options that are going to would happen a little quicker than others. So, yeah.
Okay, Town Center Gateway is our next one. Mayor, I believe you put this one up.
Yeah, I think when we talk about all different things we can do to enhance the town, this is one of these, to me, a low-dollar, high-impact project that we should really consider. I consider this sort of separate from the Main Street discussion.
Okay.
But if we ever had that opportunity again to buy that property that sits across from the Pew House, I hope we can do it. The first 2 times didn't work out, and I think we really, really missed an opportunity, even if it was to buy it and give it to the chief for a burn. It was. Every time I talk to people, they're just like, when are you going to do something about that building? It's just a shame. We've over the years, we've had an opportunity. I just hope if it comes up again that we take advantage of it this time. And I think with the fact that you could have parking there that could help maybe the marketability of the Pew House, it certainly enhance the gateway, what I consider, I think that is the gateway to the town. And then you could have room to, maybe put up that replica train station and pull a couple, train cars in there and stuff. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot, but just that first step is going to be acquiring that property and letting the chief have an afternoon on it. So, just a thought. If it ever does come up, Tony, hint, hint.
Well, I'll point something out. Originally, the property was estimated $84,000. My estimate for land purchase is actually $250,000 because we may have missed an opportunity and the price just went up. So
well, I don't know.
I just put a high number on it.
There's no marketability to that site. There's nothing. Nobody's going to buy that site and do something with it except for us.
It's rented now, though.
Well, I know. I know, but it's only rented. But I'm just saying it's not like you can go there and build an office building or a.
Can you put a CVS there?
You can't do anything. No, absolutely not. There's nothing. There's no market to that building. Zero. We're the only
parking lot's not even.
We're the
there,
only
so.
person that could take advantage of that building, and we've missed it twice.
Councilman McCauley, the land around it is owned by the railroad on 3 sides.
Yeah, they're pretty much in the right of way.
Right.
So would we be able to do
The
anything with
footprint is
it?
very small. Pardon?
Would we be able to do anything with it?
Well, there's a slow
flag
move, a very slow move underfoot for the legislature kind of not forcing, but putting things in place for the railroad to divest itself of unused right-of-way land that they hold. That's not for the corridor specific. This was one piece of property that was identified, but it's a slow-moving process. It would transfer from the railroad to the general administration division, and then eventually be surplus at some point.
So this would be a land bank opportunity, do you think, pretty much just for aesthetic
I think it's
purposes?
I think you can immediately, aesthetically, improve the entrance to the town dramatically.
Understood.
And I don't think any, it used to be a cheap piece of property. And I think there is some other future use to it, even if it is just a parking lot for whatever happens to the Pew House.
Okay.
So, anyway,
That's another opportunity really to combine two potential projects.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
other questions? No? Okay, we're starting to make some headway here. Town Center parking lot, we do have a staff, oops, it's not working.
Yeah.
Staff update.
The other thing I wanted to mention to the council is that more and more we are planning and having activities downtown, in our town center area. And parking is a continual issue. And so the thought was that this project originally was supposed to be twice the size that it is now. And so this project would build out the existing parking lot behind the public safety building to its full size. And that would help us with hosting these events that we have downtown. So that's all. I wanted to kind of put that out there as you were mulling over decisions and discussions. It would help to serve providing more activity in town center.
Questions? No? Good. Moving right along, Cedar Fort ballpark fields. Had a question on this one? Should have put initials beside
Liz,
these
you want
things.
to talk about that?
Everything's a B.
Yeah, I think it was this.
It
Was me.
It was.
Well, I remember it was
It's scaled down,
kind of
no
hot and
lights.
heavy before we sort of altered it to Northwest Park as a higher priority. But I think part of that was because Jerry indicated that we had a lower need for ball fields.
Well, and you'll notice, we actually revised this concept. And we did so after, we originally proposed this project and the other two projects in 2010. 5 years later, we try to be conscious in reviewing and looking at our operation. 5 years worth of experience, looking back at it, has shown us that our trends as far as our programming right now, baseball programs were in a growing period between 2006 and 2009, and so around 2010, that was considered to be a bigger need. The trend we've seen over the last 5 years has not continued that way. We've seen more growth in our soccer program and actual decline in our numbers in baseball. We've seen more demands for rental groups looking for lacrosse fields, where to play frisbee, a lot of other things that would use an open field space. And so what we did here was provide the concept. We have the land. We have an agreement for use of the land. We have groups wanting to rent it. We need space for more soccer fields. So what we've done here is shown instead of building a lot of fencing and a lot of work on irrigation and a lot of under drains that you use in baseball fields, regrading it into a larger multi-purpose open space field, still lighting it, but being able to use it for things like soccer and flag football, lacrosse, rental for frisbee groups, rental for other things that fences on baseball fields restrict you from being able to do. And so this will allow us to use the site much less expensive than building 2 baseball fields and be more reflective of what we've seen in the trends in the program.
And this is staff asking to change the scope at this time because of new information that's influenced. Is it realistic to continue to project ball fields?
One other consideration, I think Jerry touched on, but this wouldn't, if we convert these fields to this type of use, it's not that we'd be making major expansions in our programs. This would provide actually opportunity for us to bring in other businesses that operate those kind of programs. So it would be a revenue source as well.
Yeah, we've projected a real conservative revenue number down here, so.
Revenue from like companies coming in and do different stuff.
Well,
like-
Jerry mentioned
Don't get too excited about the
Yeah. They have to do it for free. Okay, rental revenue, yeah.
Like revenue
Pickleball
streams.
across it, or it will allow us a field space that we could expand our 4-5 soccer program on, which right now, we need more space for. It could be a space we could expand on for a flag football program, which we have no space right now we can do that on. We're trying trying to figure out if we can fit that in. You know, things that we keep hearing about from the community that they'd like to have in this area. But right now, we're just limited on space.
Other questions?
Okay, and you touched, my question was, I thought we had a design for this park. Did we have a design?
It was designed as 2 little baseball fields. Well, like I said, 5 years, that was in 2009, 10 when we first proposed it. But looking at 5 years more experience and being realistic with our growth patterns, and just see a need for a different type of facility. We have the land, we have use of the land. It's just right now, it can be built to be a lot better.
If I recall, when it was moving towards actually pulling the trigger on this, the price jumped a lot because, was that lighting or poor soil conditions or something?
There were a couple things involved.
Because that sort of scared people off from it a little bit.
Original cost estimates were done. When we actually bid the job, it was several years later, and just different changes in the bidding environment, some of those things went up. We went back and looked at the designs and found ways we could do things a little less expensive. But at that point, we said, with our cost estimates for Church Street Park, we put this on hold until that project was complete.
Is there any way to sort of implement this project and use it for the eventual use? We would just have to grade it, or?
It's mainly regrading, getting.
Because it can't be used for these things right now. It's not high enough quality.
It's been, right now it's graded for 2 baseball fields, which the slope has a ravine right in the middle for drainage.
Okay.
So you don't have a long straight field that you can use. There's a dip right in the middle. So this regrades, it takes that dip out, so you've got a much larger open space that you can put a field on and use.
Okay.
Which you just can't do right now because of the way it's graded.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Ready to move? Civil War Battleground Park? Questions on this one? Did you have that one?
Yes, that was me, and I was just wondering if there's any update on this. Does it just remain the same as far as the design and, that?
Yeah, we haven't really made any change to the concept on this.
Okay.
Here, did you
Wanted
have
to
a
make
question?
sure.
I was just, is this the Stottlemyre
Yes.
property? So
Yes. So,
it seems that that would be a pretty major piece of this. What happens with that design?
or if it would shrink. Could it possibly shrink in size? Right now, it's a very large park, but because of Indian Creek Trailhead, would there be, flexible?
Have they done anything with that property?
So the last contact we've had with the property owner, I saw the attorney who was representing them, and she said they'll probably be coming back in with a proposed project in the near future. We have talked with them about the concept of conservation development, where it looks like they'll probably need a rezoning for the kind of density they're looking for. That's a legislative process that gives you an opportunity to maybe work with and us to work with the applicant to help protect some lands and allow some lands to be developed. There is, of course, the steep slope and ridge overlooking Indian Creek. And Jerry and Ed and I and others have gone out with the representative of the property owner and walked on the property to take a look at that. And we talked a lot about a possibility of maybe running a walking loop that also had some interpretive signage that helped to describe some of the activities during the Civil War skirmish. Jerry, I don't know if you want to say more about it.
So yes, we haven't talked about it a lot, but that does have an opportunity for a smaller scale. We can still do some recreation activity on, but still allow development on part of that property.
So that would be a win-win kind of thing? Okay.
And that would obviously have a much lower price tag for the town than what you see.
Right.
But until we've had the development to actually look at a concept, we can't put a number to it yet.
Okay. But it's still in play, or it's still on the books, and we're still looking at that?
We can't change anything here because we don't have new information at this point.
Okay, good, thank you.
Other questions?
That's very good, thank you.
Crabtree Nature Park. Mr. Mayor, I think you just got it.
Yeah, so this is, what's commonly referred to as it's the Weston Estates soccer fields, or the ones off of Key Bridge. And I thought that we may want to look at is connection from this park to the CMAC trail part of the CMAC effort? I think if that happens, that I know at least, the neighborhood that that's my neighborhood, and I think people would be ecstatic to have, the access to the trails going through that soccer field. And so the rest of this, what is the concept for the rest of this property?
At one point, it was a nature center when the property was first gifted to the town. After further investigation, actual usability of the property is not very high, deep within the floodplain, and is regularly flooded. So any structures in there is unlikely, other than where it sits, where the soccer field is now. Best case scenario, you have some walking trails and some boardwalks with some educational signage and that sort of thing. It's not really a developable piece of property.
But with the
nature park, it really just nature trails,
right.
Turkish connection. Yeah.
With the back then there wasn't a CMAC on the map or a bridge over to the CMAC or anything like that. So I think I would almost think that if you did enough with the CMAC and access to it, that might kind of satisfy the need or the availability to go on longer nature walks and things like that. So
potentially.
You ask about what can be removed from the CIP, and this is one of those things where it had a pretty futuristic time frame on it, and it keeps getting pushed out. How realistic is it to think that there would be nature trails and whatever built on, I guess, the east side of Crabtree?
Well, if there were, it would all be within our property. It wouldn't connect to any adjacent trails. There's no other trails in the area to connect to, so it would really be its own internal walking routes and things. There is a lot next to the soccer field that could be used for, a nature center building, maybe some expanded parking. But it was primarily its own self-contained, little nature park with just walking trails, some benches, and things like that. So, kind of a quiet place in the middle of all the hustle and bustle.
Well, I know the neighborhood would be thrilled to have access to, a greenway, and I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but I think that would go a long way in satisfying, the urge to go out and walk in nature. But
I just had my timekeeper tell me it's 7:30. So.
Where does the CMAC connect? Right at the existing soccer field?
As you pull into the off of Key Bridge into the parking lot, there'll be a feed in right there on the left side, right to the sidewalk.
Okay.
From basically along the left side of
The existing field near where that netting is,
straight back
right across.
There'll be a bridge across Crabtree Creek.
Okay, that's great.
How bad does it flood there?
there,
It's down
not
the
on,
other end that floods.
on our side it doesn't.
Nothing.
On
Okay, where the
other
bridge
side.
will be. Well, back where the bridge will be, you won't have any flooding. Because I know the field's lower. It
It's
does.
mainly on the soccer field side, not the castle soccer, or the county park.
But nowhere near the bridge you're talking about, is what I'm getting to.
The bridge will be high enough where it will not be underwater. And that's
High-rise bridge. High-rise pedestrian.
A lot of the Crabtree Creek will flow over into the soccer fields before it does on the other side, but the other side flows from a lot of the stormwater runoff from everything on the other side of the stream. And so it will flood, but it's not flowing flood water like you see in the soccer fields.
Thank you.
Other questions? Good conversation. That one might come back up later tonight. We'll see. Crabtree Crossing Greenway Connection.
I just was, that by itself, I thought it was part of the CMAC, but it's
That was
not.
my question,
not.
too.
It's
I thought it was-
basically an extension of where the CMAC, the Crabtree Crossing terminates. It extends along Crabtree Crossing Parkway.
So here's
It's basically a wide sidewalk along that length, and that's all there is to it.
Okay, so if somebody,
The next phase to connect to Morrisville Parkway. So it's
right, so the way CMAC is then, to get to it from, how can you get from it from if you came down Town Hall Drive?
well,
Unless you take this.
part of the CMAQ project does include the actual crossing of the creek. So it'll terminate at Town Hall Drive on the north and on the south, right where Crabtree Crossing terminates. So
And that's it.
it's making that connection that is not there. And that's within the CMAQ program.
Okay, so folks could
They're
still,
getting it to the street
Yes.
right,
where the dead end is.
This takes it to the street all the way to Morrisville Parkway.
so that's
When you turn off Morrisville Parkway.
better than what's there.
Crabtree Crossing, it goes
Okay.
out past the apartment complex and just dead end.
Yeah.
The CMAQ project ends at the dead end. This would pick up at the dead end and widen the walkway back to Morrisville Parkway.
Do we have sidewalk the whole way from that dead end to Morrisville
There's-
Parkway now?
There's a sidewalk there right now, it's a standard 5 foot on one side.
And you guys just put in the bike lanes, which are nice.
Yeah, you can go down that road. It's
Yeah.
easy to ride down that road. Easy to,
That's an underused road. It's a
yes,
dead end.
yeah.
So does that price include doing it in conjunction with CMAQ, or that's
Totally
separate?
separate project.
Okay. Do you want to connect those two together, or no?
No.
At the same time?
We're underway with,
Too
like
late.
Gene was mentioning earlier, we're underway
No.
with that job.
Right, but, okay, but you don't see a need to do that similar to it?
Not immediately,
Yeah, I was.
because like I said, right now, that road is pretty underutilized. There is a sidewalk there
Yeah.
for existing
Yeah.
connectivity.
Once the Crabtree Hatchet Greenway is completed, you can walk from Town Hall Drive to the end of Crabtree Crossing. You can take a sidewalk up to Marshall Parkway, or you can walk on the side of the road where the bicycle path is today. That's what it would look like.
How do you get across the creek?
That's part of the CMAQ.
That's part of
That's
CMAQ.
part of the CMAQ, okay.
That's,
All right.
that's close to Morrisville Parkway.
Where I started.
All right.
So if you drive down Crabtree Crossing to the dead end, the Greenway will stop right there.
But after CMAQ, people will be able to go from Preston Grand and all those apartments to Town Hall Drive without getting wet. Okay.
Good, oh,
Or
good.
taking the
I told
sidewalk.
the truth then.
As long as they don't
I was
walk
gonna,
on
oh
the
my
main.
gosh, I've been lying to people. Okay, I got it now.
Other questions? Main Street Park, Councilman Morrell, I think you may have this one up.
No, I just, when we were initially getting things kicked off, I think that, no, I guess, that I would actually think this would go into the
Okay.
other bucket, yeah.
Okay.
It's
Alright,
just,
you're
it was
good
an
with
example of, something that we've had a lot of discussion about town center, about Main Street, just in general. And I think a Main Street park would fit into that, so.
Other questions? That was good, thank you. Rural Heritage Park, staff actually has a small update. Who's doing that?
The concept of the Rural Heritage Park incorporated the Farrell property and the Yates property, and to some extent the TTA property. Staff has recently been contacted by TTA. There's interest in them divesting themselves of that property. And so there's an opportunity out there for us to go ahead and maybe acquire that 10 acres. Part of that land is already being, we're going to TTA for an easement for the Crabtree Hatchet Greenway as well. So we wanted to update the council on that activity, that there is an interest in TTA working with the town to acquire the property. And then that would kind of start the process of land banking the property for eventually the Rural Heritage Park. So,
Very good. Soon? Okay.
So that's a real soon decision because of.
Ben, you want to offer anything?
Yeah, the Triangle Transit has to submit an update on properties that it got funding from the Federal Transit Administration for, and the status of those properties and the extent to which they're being used for transit facilities. And so Deborah Ross at Triangle Transit is working on that update, and so contacted us because they don't need this property anymore for transit purposes. And so they want to be able to let FTA know that they're working with potential parties to maybe transfer it off their inventory. If it's not used for transit, they do have to reimburse FTA. So their typical arrangement would be to get appraisals and sell it for fair market value.
Do they have a deadline?
Are
Are you aware of any kind of deadline?
They're starting to feel some pressure to either move it off the inventory or use it for transit purposes, and there aren't any immediate real transit uses. I think we're sort of waiting for the Lake County Transit Plan and the referendum. Not even sure how this property fits in at all with that.
A bus station.
Well, that's where I was going, right? Jeannie, you just flip.
Oh, do you want me to go back up?
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is transit purposes. So as we're getting this transit concept and we're moving forward on it, busing has kind of crossed my mind. At one of our information sessions we've had recently, this would be a great place for a bus stop. It's central. It's near Morrisville Carpenter Road.
It'd be near a greenway. People
It'd
can
be
walk
near
to
a
it.
greenway.
Well, a bus stop or a bus station?
Yeah, it's 9 acres.
Yeah, it's
It's a
big.
station.
We
It
don't
would
need
have
a
to be a
depot
station.
because Carrie has one. But I hear you.
It's central. But, I mean, if it has to be a transit piece of property,
We
that
have
could be a
TOD.
possible
Don't we have a
use.
TOD for this purpose?
You could drop it in there.
Drop
I'm
it here?
just-
You want to move it here now?
How many bus
The train's
stations do you
different
have?
than a bus.
Train is different.
We
You
have
don't
one
have-
bus stop already. We really should grow. I'm sorry, we're getting a little punchy.
No, but I'm just saying, before you start shooting everything down, let's look at that intended purpose, and maybe that's something that you could work with the TTA on. It might not be a town thing, it might be a joint thing. Just kind of think a little bit more.
So let them carry the load. Let them keep
Exactly.
it and develop it themselves.
Right.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, they don't have any plans to do something like
They don't.
that.
They
But
wanna sell
if we talked with them about the property, that could, we could raise that issue and just find out more about whether that's something they would entertain. But
Exactly. You have to start talking about something before they can be, openly discussed. So it's because just in the last several weeks, transportation and busing has been more of a topic. So.
Would the recent development about TTA's status change the project score? Because it had a fairly low project score, the 24.2. No, I'm sorry, I apologize. 22.
22.1.
That's even lower. Yeah.
Sorry. So would the recent developments change the score?
Or the urgency, right?
Well, I mean, it's urgent, but just from the criteria we established, what would the score change at all? And I don't know, we need to answer it now.
Yeah, I don't know that we can answer that right now. I think we would need to get some collective heads together and think about that. So, what is
And I
this
think
one?
we're bringing it forward only as you are, again, analyzing the project and not knowing where this might fall, what the interest level and that kind of stuff.
Right.
We just wanted you to know that.
And a bus station was on my list, but I didn't have a property associated with it. But because it's TTA, I just thought I'd start socializing.
Yeah, but this is a nice piece of property. This is a
Which is why
important
they held on to
location.
it.
So
Yes.
We've got that over here.
Don't we have a,
Yeah, how much of it is developable?
What's that? Yeah.
A challenge.
I'm sorry?
I guess there's, I mean,
Let's
The
not
10
talk
acres,
about it.
yeah,
the 10 acres.
I think the planning department's done a lot more research on what's developable there.
Yeah, we've got floodway at the very southern tip, and then we've got a fair amount of 100-year floodplain that would just need to be elevated 2 feet above the base flood elevation to be developable. So a fair amount, I'd say maybe 6 out of 10 acres, something like that. Rich, does that?
and that would all be factored in the fair market value and the
Right, it would have to be appraised.
appraisal.
One other issue is we need at least an easement across the property for the work that Jerry and Ed are doing with the Crabtree Hatchet Creek Greenway. And just in preliminary discussions, Triangle Transit has said, that would encumber the property and make it harder for them to dispose of it, so they're not particularly interested in just selling us an easement, it sounds like.
That makes it interesting.
Again, they've got
Blackmail.
Yeah.
sort of these transit obligations because of how they helped pay for the original purchase. But if we're able to acquire it, we meet that goal. We protect one of the few forested areas in the center of the town that could be used for park and other purposes. So, there's sort of a multi-objective opportunity, I think, with the acquisition.
I think that's relevant. When we look at that, it could be a park, it could be something wild like a transit kind of thing, or it could be used as main something.
Did you say wild like a transit thing?
Something outside the box.
Something outside the box. Since it is a transit designated property. Or it could be used for some sort of retail.
Councilmember Slink, you have
I was going to say, we have a policy on buying property, don't we? And then I would just say, and then we had a capital improvement fund for this, but it's no longer there. I just wanted to bring that up.
And I think in this case, we'd have a willing seller
Right.
in the town.
No, the policy adopted prevented staffing, but proactively addressing property owners without the specific direction of the council. Certainly we can entertain some people when they approach us.
No, I understand. I'm just for everybody, so we have a policy we can follow, and then the same thing, I think, if you want to pursue buying land, I think it'd be a good idea to discuss the policy and discuss putting funding into a CIP fund so we could do that. That's just my thoughts.
No, it's a good point, because there's,
Like we
within
did
these
before.
lists, there's several different parcels that
Yes.
are in play, and that makes sense.
One other possible use of that land down the road, if it ever gets back on the transportation plan, is town hall extended. We're always talking about traffic. That would be one way to help address that. And if it's not within our control, the possibility of that ever happening.
Crabtree Crossing extension,
Well, we could call
a
it that
$9 million
too.
project.
It sounds like a bond.
Tony has something
And
to add?
pushing off other things.
In our discussion about this particular land and the acquisition of easements and so forth, we would have to do some more investigating, but there may be a possible funding source for part of the property, maybe not all of it. So we'd have to do, if council was interested, we'd have to do some investigating. So,
That would be very interesting to see if there was a way to obtain additional funds.
So let's talk about this one at the end of the evening, hopefully, and maybe you can give us some collected consensus
early
direction.
morning.
Early morning. Yeah. I have faith. Sports facility improvements. I think staff, we just had a quick little note about this one.
This is a new project that we just wanted to kind of update quickly on. And what it is really a combination of several smaller projects in one capital project, including things like irrigation on the soccer field at Cedar Fort District Park, because even though for the past year we've had plenty of rain, that's not always the case. And, those fields often get destroyed when we have any kind of low rain or drought situation. It would also include lighting on some of those fields, and other work at Morrisville Community Park to improve the field there for more use. So like I said, it's really several smaller projects put into one larger project that would benefit 2 or 3 different park sites. One of the interesting things here is also trying to add a second entrance into Cedar Fort District Park. Any of you that have ever been over there for games on Saturday or seen what that traffic's like, would really like to find a way to extend that road back out and have a second entrance and exit from that site, and that's also one that I was included in here.
On aviation?
Yes.
You have no other choice, right?
Oh, it is, right, and it would just be further up.
Weston,
From where?
down, further down at aviation.
Bridge across the creek.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
the genesis of this idea was to get better and more use out of existing facilities. And to better utilize them, because we are limited on the condition of the fields and the wear and tear that it take. And then the addition of lighting allows us more hours in the day to rent. So it's more to get a better return on investment for what we already have.
But just to add lights, to increase use on those fields without irrigation, the increased use is going to destroy it. I mean, if you're couple of irrigation to help the turf regenerate, then there's no real need to put the lights on.
What is our lease on that now? How long is the lease for?
It was 25 years, I believe, and we're through about, we're through about 9 years now, because they did it right before I came in.
Any chance Wake County would help, since it's their park?
We can always ask. I don't ever mind asking, but since they're not using the site, they don't program those types of activities, I'm not sure if they would. But like I said, we can always ask. They have expressed some interest in maybe helping with the road, because they want to be able to expand their current waste site, and extending the road could help them with that project.
We did have, this is kind of an out discussion from hotel meal tax. This one came up high on when we were looking at projects to do. Kind of this whole idea of funding, getting this park upgraded.
Okay.
And then I think this park to me has also been critical because it's along the Greenway, so people could drive there, park there, and then get on the Greenway. And now with biking, mountain biking, same
And it
difference.
helped develop Cotton Place. I mean, they're there because there's a park right there.
So I really think that second entrance would be a good idea.
Do the cricket players play on some of these fields as well?
Oh, yes.
On one of them, okay.
Other questions? This is another example of you taking care of your existing assets, planning for it in your CIP. We toyed with whether or not we put this in our annual budgeting cycle or should it go over here. And the reality is, it really fits well, although you're planning for it across multiple years, but it puts it in this investment capital dollar perspective. So you can see that it's not, you're not looking just in that annual silo. You're forcing yourself to look long range and how to take care of your assets. Veterans Memorial. Jerry, did you have something for that?
This is also a new project on the CIP this year. This is in response to a discussion that was brought to council last year and a recommendation from our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. At that time, there hadn't been any numbers put to it. We went and looked at the site and talked a little about what it might take. So what we have here is basically a conceptual cost estimate for this. It would include the wall, flagpoles, lighting, the entire site would have to be filled for drainage, and some drainage work in the year. But we wanted to put it in the CIP plan to give you a little bit more detail of what the project could involve, and to give you an opportunity to discuss it and be able to look at some numbers. What we're proposing there is design engineering cost of about $100,000, and then anywhere from $500,000 to $650,000 for actual construction. This is one of these projects, as the advisory committee proposed, that could be funded by donations, fundraising efforts, coordinated efforts with other town agencies, VFWs, American Legions, and other groups. It's just, it would be on town property, it would eventually become a town asset, the town would be responsible for maintaining that.
So, is this a ballpark number? I mean, could it be lower or could it be higher? We don't know.
It's strictly a ballpark number.
Okay, and I would like us to, in addition to adding on the CIP, and this might be a separate discussion, is to enable us to give the group that came and presented the opportunity to come up with different scenarios or funding options, because I think that there's a lot of public-private partnerships out there, companies that might want to do this. That way we can at least, we never know the timeline. I can't think personally a better time to honor veterans than any time in our history, but now there's just so much going on. These veterans are coming back, returning from the war, and it'd be nice to have some place in Morrisville where we can celebrate veterans our own in town. So I hope that's an option we can consider. And
as you can see here in the resources section, I put in $100,000 from the general fund for discussion purposes. That would be, that's that first step. We've all seen the fundraiser kilometers on the side of the road. That could be something to show that it's kicked off. You can use that money to do some preliminary geotechnical work and some design work where you actually have a concept that you can show people. it's hard sometimes to raise funds when you just have an idea. When you can show them a picture, you can show them a plan, people can get behind it easier, and they're usually more willing then to get involved and jump on board early.
That would help reduce and mitigate some of this construction costs, because you're projecting the full impact, not consideration of receiving any contributions yet. Okay. Other questions? We good? Oh my goodness, we're going to turn the page. So we have 3 here we're going to discuss. I'm going to pause just a minute. Are we still good to go, council? We're still moving forward?
I'm going to break.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Can I bribe anybody with a cookie?
These goals, the next one and this one, seem to be adding value around airport, aviation, that kind of thing. And the Morrisville East Connector had some elements where they would improve truck traffic so that trucks wouldn't have to go on some of the other roads. I don't know, is it like?
Benjamin's going to speak to it.
Yes.
Do you have any updates about these?
On the East Connector?
Yes.
Benjamin actually has something that he's
Benjamin.
going to.
Sorry, Benjamin, I can't see everything.
Well, there's no updates, but I will say for the International Drive, the Morrisville East Connector, and the Odyssey Drive extension, they're all, I don't know how clear it was from reading the sheets, but these projects have been in the CIP for, I think, years in some form or another, but we haven't brought you forth a transportation plan amendment, but as part of our work with the McCrimmon Parkway extension, we looked at the road network for this area, and so these are, we rebranded the projects that have always been in the CIP into these because we changed alignments and got rid of some funky road connections that were in there. But yes, the International Drive extension and the Morrisville East Connector both have the potential for, well, International Drive extension obviously would provide a good, it would provide the truck traffic that is now, a lot of it is based off International Drive, give them the option to go out to airport or aviation, which right now obviously airport's a much better road for getting out to I-40, so we feel that would be very, very helpful to the traffic in town. And then the Morrisville East Connector is actually has several good things about it. One is it provides the truck traffic off of that Dominion Nova Drive area. It provides them a back door out there, Airport Boulevard. It would allow us to do some needed, or help create a, I think, a loop for the water main, which would help some water issues, and also provide a secondary entrance for that whole area, the Dominion Drive, Nova Drive area. Because right now they all only can go out to Aviation Parkway, and of course these projects aren't currently funded or anything, but ostensibly if we could somehow, if either of these projects were either funded or got constructed by private parties in time, they potentially could also really help when the state goes to upgrade Aviation Parkway. Because that's going to be a major project, especially when they work on the causeway over to I-40. And so having these road connections in there would be very helpful too. And they all also connect in with the McCrimmon Parkway Extension project. So it creates a really nice roadway network in that area.
And it would probably ease some congestion on NC-54 as well, because there would be a parallel path.
Potentially it could ease congestion on 54 and also keep Morrisville Park, or the McCrimmon Parkway Extension from getting too terribly congested, especially with truck traffic. It provides some other, routes, especially in those industrial areas.
All these projects you have in here, I think almost on all of them, if I read this right, they all have potential to be built by private development, except for Southport.
Well, even Southport potentially could be. We've looked at that, and we did do some design plans of Southport Drive extension as part of the McCrimmon Parkway extension project, but we're not sure. That's one of the things where that's going to be very dependent on the final budget for the McCrimmon Parkway extension as to whether we can get that Southport Drive extension piece done.
Okay.
So and all of these are also in the transportation plan. The plan needs to be amended to show these new alignments. but they're also all in the transportation plan. So if private development comes through first and wants to develop where any of these extensions would be, they would be responsible for their portion. But since these are all also are envisioned to be town roads, they're currently town roads, they're envisioned to stay town roads, it's important to have them in the CIP to show, I think that, we've talked to staff, it's important to have it in the CIP to show citizens that if the town feels that a road's important enough to have a town road, extension of a town road in the transportation plan, we really should show it in the CIP and be willing to show if at some point the town may want to pay for it. Hopefully, development will take care of that for us, but it is important to show that connection that the town views that these roads are important.
Other questions?
Thank you. Mark, you had mentioned that second one, the East Connector.
Yeah, no, I was more wondering which one. I just thought that I agree with what's been said, that it would, a quarter mile or something, you could really open up a whole new way to get around. So.
Also, it's an economic development area as well.
And one other thing with the east-west connector is that while the McCrimmon Parkway extension does provide access to most of the parcels in that area, there's a couple that are actually completely off of the extension, and the east-west connector would actually provide public road access to those parcels. Without that east-west connector, those parcels would either have to have a shared driveway or build a private road or build their own road. So that's another benefit of having that east-west connector in there.
It would also facilitate more development possible.
Okay, questions? I think we knocked two at least.
See,
I'm almost maybe knocked Southport off, but I think staff has some information to add on Southport.
Yeah, Southport, as Ben was saying, it's not part of the original McCrimmon Parkway Extension project, but we did include in the project the design. We got a detailed design for it, so it can be built at a later stage, and it can be built by development, future development. The town doesn't have to build it. Future development would build it if it comes soon. But it does provide extra connectivity off of Southport, which might relieve some of the congestion on aviation if it is built. So there's some advantages to having it done.
That's great.
But it's only a very small piece. So it's, we're only talking about 1 mile.
but if it's not paved, you can't access it, so it's
That's correct. If there's a big development comes in there, that's adjacent to that roadway, they're going to have to build it. Either the two-piece, one side would build one half, then look down the other half. What would likely happen, since it's only 37 feet back to back, it's really only a 2-lane road. The first property that develops there is going to have to build the whole thing.
Other questions?
If I can just, one important note on that Southport Drive extension, and the other reason we're planning to do a transportation plan amendment at some point for these roads. Originally, Southport Drive extension was, and it's currently, where it's currently built, it's open, it was always envisioned to be extended. And then, there's actually another section of it on the far, off of NC 54, and it was originally envisioned to come all the way across and be another connector between Aviation Parkway and NC 54. And when we do get that transportation plan amendment to you, you'll see we're actually cutting off that section from McCrimmon Parkway extension to NC 54 because we've looked at that more closely in depth with the McCrimmon Parkway extension project, and it can't really be built, that section. There's a section that would need to be built between International Drive and McCrimmon Parkway extension, and really can't be built where we have it aligned. So we will be recommending to remove that, and so Southport Drive extension really would just be between, or Southport Drive then ultimately will only be between McCrimmon Parkway and Aviation Parkway.
You're exercising over here. All right, one more. Sawmill Creek stream restoration. This is a new project, and it has some relationship to another.
Yeah, we just wanted to, I guess this is probably the first time you're all seeing this. This project comes up from a portion of the rear property that was purchased last year as a potential stormwater project. You'll remember we have the nutrient offset program, which the developers are now paying into for the new side of town, which that fund is, I believe, a little bit more than $200,000 right now. And we've got a few other projects that we'll be paying into it soon in the coming months. So what we did is we had our consultants kind of analyze the existing property we have, and in doing so, they identified the opportunity, which in the report kind of gave us a small, medium, and what I'm showing here is kind of the quadruple XL version or opportunity out there. Part of this was driven by they noticed that some of our other plans, particularly the Greenway plan, where the Sawmill Creek Greenway is projected to go up that creek, where we could potentially combine a stream restoration project, utilizing the funds from the nutrient offset program, leveraging those with some grant monies, which the water quality benefit we could get from the stream restoration combined with by adding a greenway, we could potentially open ourselves up to other funding sources and basically be able to build a portion of the Sawmill Creek Greenway with one of our stormwater projects. That kind of ties in also to the parking lot project where I was mentioning how there's a potential for some trailhead access there. So this project could potentially tie a few different initiatives together and hopefully be funded predominantly from the stormwater aspect.
So Historic Christian Church, Sawmill Creek Greenway, and the stormwater have a relationship. Question?
Multi-objective benefits.
Couldn't you do that with the town center stormwater BMP too? You can do more than one.
That one is not the funds that were paid by the developers. That one isn't one that in discussions with them when we initially set up the program. That wasn't something that they were supportive of us using those monies for.
Because
It's facilitating different separate development. The conversations we had originally with the program was that if the money's being collected to provide water quality benefit and basically offset the impacts they're having, then they want it to be specifically on water quality projects where the town center plan would be really in support of the Main Street core area for development.
well, there's other locations too. You could do it BMP right in town center.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? Well, I think we might have reached the end. Okay, here are the other projects that I think we've heard from council. These aren't all necessarily CIP type projects. This actually could be something done, planned through our annual budget process. The engineering office, Tony, did you want to speak a little bit about that one? That's Page Street, the old police station. Okay. So we have some little usage about that. Renovations, it's less than the CIP threshold. The Pew House is an existing project fund. The issue is there's no more dollars in there, but it is an active fund. Sidewalks, I think, Mary, you had a question about how do we deal with sidewalks. This is one where we actively, in our annual budgeting process, go out and seek grant opportunities with Campo and CDBG to try to fill in some of those segments.
Well, and I think along with that, to Michael's point about these, throughout the whole town, we have these 2-lane, 1-lane, 2-lane, 1-lane all over the place. And some of them are in areas that it's not reasonable to think someone's going to develop this 50-foot or this 100-foot. So at some point we have to start thinking about us doing it versus waiting for a day that will never come.
Mm-hmm.
An example is over near the, on McCrone Parkway. You take a left on Town Hall Drive before you get to the Cary section. There's the Kids Are Kids. Goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane back to
above Twin Lakes. Yeah,
right.
Twin Lakes.
It's near the entrance to the Bexley Apartments.
Yep.
it's
And there's no sidewalk.
probably not even 100 feet.
sidewalk.
And it's
No
just
sidewalk.
It's just things like that.
Orphans.
Where do those things kind of
On
come
the
in?
right-hand turning lane onto Davis Drive on Morrisville Carpenter.
Yeah, just-
And I can think of 3 others.
So Jeannie, that magic eraser was pretty cool to watch.
Wasn't that awesome? Isn't that love? The smart board.
Yes. But on a more serious note,
We're getting punchy now.
that's right. I mentioned the bus depot, I don't know, maybe
Okay.
about 20 minutes ago, if we just want to put that at the bottom. On that transportation.
McCrimmon's small area plan, there's
Yeah.
all kinds of transportation road improvements up there. The McCrimmon's Parkway grade separation. NC 54 segment going back towards Wake Tech.
Okay. As far as small examples of small roads.
No, bigger
That's
projects.
not a small.
Well, that's state roads. That's her
You
bullet
gotta
there
let
on
Vanna
state
know
roads.
some clarity here, Simon.
No,
So this
but-
is
That's already
NC
gonna be
54?
funded as a state program.
Yeah.
54 from McCrimmon to 540 is scored very high on the town, on the state's program, so.
But I don't know if it will appear yet.
It's
It's in the draft.
It's in the furthest section of all of 54, right? I mean, it's
54 from Perimeter Park Drive north to
Right.
540 is in the draft step for construction in 2023 to 2025 or so. The McCrimmon Parkway extension is in there for construction funding in 23, 24, and 25.
That's a grade separation?
Yes.
And that will be 100%?
Yep.
Okay, great.
When
How-
are we getting the update
How about the,
list? Is there an updated list that's coming soon? I think we've talked about that
They're
before.
still,
It
it's
shows
still
this.
in draft form,
Okay.
so it won't be finalized till May or June.
I like the transit station, not just the bus, they're separate. Transit station,
They could be.
there's an iconic gateway location or something that we refer to in the plan itself.
Right.
And all kinds of things in here
I would just try to get
that I
those
think
in.
that we could start to incorporate.
Okay, let's move away from other projects. Let's talk about what's missing, added. Are you good with that?
well,
or do you need
it's one of
something
the,
else?
it's both.
Okay.
It's this and that.
Okay, because I feel like I hear you're actually talking about what do you want to put in there, what.
No, but I
Well-
think those are major buckets, and that's helpful that you added those.
Okay, am I missing something
So just,
from this
I don't
conversation?
want to miss our friend over on Morrisville Carpenter Road.
Could that fall in here? Is that?
Well,
That's
to
what
me,
the
it's something that you could do without bond money. We're talking about maybe putting some money into the design piece to make it move up in the,
That's Savannah to 54.
well, not even
To
that far.
identify a particular segment.
Page to Morrisville Square
Okay.
is what you're really talking about. Because the rest of it's going to be privately developed in the near future anyway.
Okay, can I?
I would think that you would want a design from Savannah to 54, because, and not leave it to a private developer, because you want to look at the
Yeah, no, I
whole
don't disagree
thing.
with the design part. I'm thinking the actual, when you go to build the thing.
If I could interject, I think one of the things that we have as a deliverable coming back to you is what you're talking about right now, which is road prioritization. And Benjamin is going to be spearheading the effort to bring forth some of those concepts that you talked about, which is leveraging dollars to do some of the preparatory work to get them up higher in prioritization. So you're talking about that now, and we're prepared, we're working on that for you. You're already jumping into which ones are the highest, but you asked us to develop a policy for you to consider first.
And I just have to add this, because this conversation on state roads gives me great pause. I don't know that I want to put it in here. You know, there's great conversation out there about taking state roads and putting it back on the municipalities, or not back, but giving it to the municipalities.
That's
And
full responsibility, yeah.
I don't want to give the impression that we're willing to accept all state road responsibility, and so this whole topic
I don't
gives
think
me...
I'm saying that at all. I'm just,
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. My point is, if we're going to start picking state roads that we're going to add to our CIP list, that gives me great heartburn. If we're going to create project sheets...
Wherever we want to put it, I just didn't want to lose sight of it because it hadn't been, it wasn't in the presentation. It's something that I think is under the bond threshold, so it's like, well, where does it go? I just want to make sure that we don't lose track of this. It's an expense that we've talked about that has to compete with all the other expenses we have. So, however that is, however that placeholder is put into place, is all I'm really after.
I guess what
Yeah,
and
how can
I'm
we
not
compare
saying
it if it's
anything
kind
real
of seen
different, I don't think. I'm just saying if...
You just say don't put it in the CIP.
I'm just saying because if we're going to do that for Morrisville Carpenter, then we better do it for McCrimmon, and we better do it because the public's going to wonder.
54.
Yeah, 54, we should put that in there even though it's funded. So I'm just saying, I think we need to think long-term about how we want to acknowledge all these projects and where the appropriate place is to acknowledge them. They are all incredibly important. I'm not denying that. And I think we need to go through the prioritization process as well.
If I can interject briefly, originally, so in earlier versions of the CIP, starting several years ago, and I know when I was here, it showed up for when I first got here, it was in CIP, and I've talked with Jeannie. Originally, we did have a large list of state roads in there based on, it had language in there about, these were assumed to be on the STIP or something, and we as staff made a conscious decision to take those off for now because the STIP was in flux and was being developed. And also too, and it goes back into our prioritization discussions that we had at the retreat, and how we've talked about wanting to use a transportation plan update as another way to also prioritize all the roads in town. A lot of these state road segments that you're talking about are in the hopper for the STIP. They're either in the STIP or they're going to be prioritized again in the next year or so as part of Spot 4.0. And so while I think ultimately some of these may end up coming back onto the CIP as at least partial funding, because some of them may very well hit the threshold to be worthwhile to be on the CIP. At this point, we were trying to keep them off while let the dust settle from the STIP, let this current STIP get adopted, see what roads were actually going to be funded on it, and then work on our prioritization process so that as we move forward, we'll work on our prioritization process and have our more discussions like we talked about at the retreat about how we need to fund some of these important road projects that are all on state roads that we know or that we're worried that the state may not be able to fund anytime soon. Yeah, that will all come back in, but at this point we were trying to keep them out of the CIP discussion at this point while we get all that background work done. And then when we come back to get them back into the CIP, we would have better information on cost, on project limits, and that sort of stuff. But they're by no means falling off the radar.
And the last time it was in the budget designated for a design project, and then we applied for the LAP funding, but it wasn't listed as a CIP project on this specific example.
Correct.
One long-term thing we may want to consider once we go through the prioritization is having maybe a transportation fund in the budget that maybe we set aside every year as we go through the prioritization process, so that we know some of these roads that aren't getting addressed, that we have a plan on how we're going to get to them. And that's just, I mean,
some of that I thought was like a LAP fund.
Maybe the LAP, yeah. I mean, it's...
Well, and just, I guess at this point in the conversation, I mean, there's still lots of work to do. The philosophical thing I'm hearing you talk about is what, again, we sort of talked about this, is what do you want your CIP to encapsulate? It doesn't mean that that's the only things that you'll prioritize for use of your dollars. That's a conceptual kind of thing. You're always going to keep coming back to those kinds of decisions. So how you espouse what your priorities are, you could choose multiple ways to do that. And I think we do have to decide. I just don't think you have to have that debate right now where it goes. We're still working on formulating this to be a more meaningful document to use in the future. And we're still putting pieces into it at this point.
And the STIP will, the information from the STIP and the work you do on the prioritization discussion will eventually have some influence to a future CIP. So kind of the cart before the horse, you have to have that conversation to really further kind of have the conversation of how you may feel about state road funding and where does that fit in the CIP. Is it state? Do we leave it to them? But I think that's got to happen before you can even think about putting a lot of things in here just yet. But that's a conversation I've had with Benjamin. Other questions? Other comments? This particular one was an idea that I think I heard from you guys on one of our last CIP conversations. This isn't really our assets, libraries and schools. So that doesn't quite fit nicely into what a CIP program is meant to be. Kind of
Well,
however, couldn't we add funds if we thought that a larger scale asset would be appropriate for our...
We did it with the school, for instance.
Yeah.
Cedar Fork Elementary, we have a community center right next to it. Same thing with the library. I think that's what my concept was, that the library isn't going to meet our needs. There's an opportunity to expand it, do something more, maybe.
So it's
So you're talking about an add-on component that would be that
Yeah.
I think is
Yeah.
valid.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not what I understood, so I appreciate that clarification. We can express our desire and intent and wish and for those facilities, but I'm hearing something different, so that's good added information.
Or whatever. Again, what if they say, that all we're doing is, we're not going to build you a road around this library. So if we have to build a road to make the library happen, is what I'm saying.
And an example of
Or
a
buy the
library...
land for the library, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Michael, too. I'm just so excited about the topic of the regional library that we have that's in Cary is much larger than what is going to be rated for the Morrisville Library. And I think we have a huge demand, but they are close together, and the county doesn't see it as a need to have a large library. So we might find another way of adding more value there. So,
okay. 8:30. Do I have a commitment to
you tell us what more things
have this conversation?
No,
I think we really need to have this conversation of what you think, because about what you want to modify, combine, add, or remove, because you were actually saying some of those things as you were discussing and asking questions about these projects. So if there's something you can glean and give staff now, the better, rather than walk away and it be cold and you forget. So you had some really good conversation, really good questions. Is there something we can put up here? My question is,
let me add on. I think Jeannie's right. You've got the momentum. If we break now the things that you that might have crystallized in your mind from the concept, you might lose. I just suggest perhaps we limit it at 30 minutes. The weather forecast is weather starting somewhere around 9 or 10 o'clock. And I think we probably should be able to, what we're looking for is takeaways for more work we need to do. So if you give us that tonight, that is helpful to us.
Yes, sir.
You know, I had two things that came to mind as we were talking about. One of them is the Crabtree Creek Nature Park. I think that project can be, the scale of it can be redefined now that there's that additional access to the CMAC.
So you're talking about modify. Is that what you're suggesting? Okay.
Make it
Crabtree Creek Nature
smaller,
Park.
make it larger, in what way modify?
I don't think I'd make it larger because you have something that didn't exist before, and that's the access to a huge trail network.
So reduce scale?
Well, I would say,
No,
you know,
he's not saying
I'd throw it back to the parks vote. Now that there's that access to the CMAC trail, is there a need for and the nature trails on the other side of the creek? Or is there something that, I'm trying to offer up some modifications here.
On the western side, at least you need a way to get from that bridge to the natural area.
Yeah, and
To have the connection.
that's all there. I mean, the parking lot's there, the soccer field's there, there'll soon be a bridge, and you can go to your CMAC. What else? That thing has always been such a futuristic project. I'm just trying to make some headway here with, could that be relooked at and reconfigured so it will be done basically once we make that connection over to CMAC. In other words, be able to take it off.
So are you saying that the original project as scoped with the nature trails and so forth?
Nature trails, boardwalk, nature
Take
center.
all that off, it removes that now that we have a connection from the CMAC?
I would say modify it. It's still, the land's not going to go anywhere. No one's buying the land from us. It's going to remain in its natural state. Maybe there's less trails that go around. Maybe there's not a structure, a nature center.
So reduce the scope of it.
Sounds like they already sort of made that decision. And it's really just trails right now anyway.
Well,
No,
why wouldn't you
we
just...
still have a conceptual master plan for that site that shows a nature center and a network of walking trails and some, things along the walking trails to make it, a more pleasant experience. But if you remove the nature trails or the nature center, you basically remove the project. I mean, there's nothing left. That's all that's in the concept plan is the nature center and network. But I think I understand what Mark's saying is, that whole intent there was to provide a natural area where people could go walk and do some hiking, relax. We're about to connect to 40 miles of trail between, that connection will get you to all the way to Olmsted or Raleigh, and if you want to get on the bike and ride to a nature site, there's going to be plenty along that trail. So I think
maybe it's, as you're going into that park, instead of everything, all the development being to the right side, that it's maybe you enhance the, before you go to the bridge, there's a little area, besides the soccer field or something. I'm just thinking I think it's an opportunity to do something different than where we were headed with this thing.
But we own a chunk of property to the left of that. That could be developed, to some type of amenity.
You do something, yeah.
Right.
So.
At the minimum, you want to put a bathroom building out there, and you want to make it a park.
Sure. Well, and that's a good point too.
At the minimum,
maybe you can do it.
$100,000 rather than a big.
Right.
And the land to the left of the trail as you go under BID.
Right.
It can be filled, it can be graded. If we want to change the scope of the park, just a more relaxed park.
I'm thinking more of a trailhead and
Picnic shelter, restroom, playground, and now you've got an open field, you've got facilities and structures. It can be reworked.
Yeah. Okay.
If there's any way to make it a destination too, like great bird watching or something that could make it set it apart from something else.
And then Jeannie, the other
bring the birds.
Several options.
I understand, but there's a way to bring butterflies, for example, or something like that.
So focus on accessibility to the trail system, still with some nature component.
Well, I think just
maybe it's not the big scale.
rethink that concept, and I don't know that it has to. I'm thinking more development to the left and to the right.
So it is sort of a reduced scope, but it's still
It's just a modification.
It's just some
We have many projects that have changed over the years, and I think there are projects on here that are going to change over time moving forward too.
Projects to modify it, so
I mean, you could do this and say, well, later on in years we might add this.
I would hate to eliminate it from the list.
Well, I don't think,
I think it's
I'm not eliminating it. I think more modification.
No, I'm just saying it needs to remain and be what it will be.
You might be making it more doable, by rethinking it.
The second one was the senior center, and it has a price tag of $3 million, 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. I'm just thinking, you could buy a really nice house for $1 million for the seniors to hang out in, and save yourself $2 million.
Well,
I'm
I think
being
that-
facetious, but I'm just saying, my point is this, maybe there's,
it's actually very accurate for a standalone building.
oh, I agree, I don't disagree that it would cost $3 million, but I'm just saying, you know, maybe an alternative is to have a really nice area in another building dedicated to the seniors for a lot less.
We are
Combining
going to
it.
get a lot of seniors in the future. I think we really need to be forward thinking about our senior population.
I would keep this project on the list. I might add more wording to it that says there are alternatives
Well, exactly,
and
exactly.
options.
Yeah. I'm not
and I
saying,
don't
I'm not
see
saying
that in
take,
the write-up.
I'm not saying take it off. I'm
I
just
know.
saying let's read for $3 million. You can do an awful lot of things
Well, and I think that
for a lot less
as
than
we
that.
talk more about recreation center concepts, the MAFC feasibility study and the town center recreation center, as we talk about those concepts, if it's the will of the council to incorporate those facilities in that building, this project goes away.
Yeah, and that's
So
my
those are
that's my
all
point.
Moving
Yeah.
parts
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we'll be talking about going
I mean,
forward.
right now, the only place they can go is they go to the Bond Park place.
Which is a senior center.
Yeah, but a lot of times people say, I want to go here, and they don't have anywhere to go.
And we shouldn't discount the fact that there are funding options for a senior center. So if we fold it into an aquatics, combined rec center, we might not be able to leverage those potential sources. It just depends on the terms of those grants and money. So being
But
flexible.
those are still going to be not fully funded grants. I mean, you're
Right.
still talking-
No. I realize that. It's just, there's always, criteria that may or may not apply based on your project.
Kind of the concept of what Jerry put in here for this new project is to help the council maybe look forward and decide, do we really need a freestanding facility, or do we have the capacity to provide a well-operated senior facility with dedicated space
It has more capacity
and
than
combined
today.
in combination with other projects? And so, I think the direction, and you're looking at your whole CIP is, are you looking at this $3-4 million project, or are we looking at something that we are going to combine with another project to help that thinking process?
So you value having senior programs, and you want to enhance that, whether it's a dedicated facility or combined with another, could be something looked at in the future. Is that sort of what I'm hearing, that you value that core piece?
I think also we need to say that we anticipate future capacity needs or some sort of growth, and we have to try to plan
senior
for that.
population.
The senior population is growing in Morrisville.
So alternatives,
Alternatives and future capacity, maybe.
is everybody good with that? Alternatives and future capacity?
Because
Meeting the needs of future capacity.
we have over capacity right now, but we can say that too. Jeannie,
Yes.
I was looking at the CIP, and one of the things that jumped out is we don't have really a coordinated historical kind of tagging. We have several projects that are related to history in Morrisville, but it'd be nice if we kind of looked at it as a series of, like, the train station is one asset, and then we have a park that could be another asset, and then there's other things. It's like,
I'm sorry, I'm diverting, but it's.
we only have so much
Like another
history.
category?
Direction.
Yes.
Actually, in my proposed policy, I'm recommending, no, I didn't.
Yeah, I was
That could be one we could add as a category.
I'm sorry, I'm completely.
Like a town
I would like to.
Historical
I would like to add a
recognition.
historical
Tagging.
category
Recognition of what projects are historical
In nature.
relevance.
in nature, because we only have so much history that we're preserving. We were on a roll, I think, for few years back with the Pew House and so forth, and now we've kind of plateaued. And it'd be nice to flag those historical projects again, and then when we're ready, the
Would
Pew
you
House
allow
would
us
fall.
to play with that a little bit, and I'll tell you why, is because not just this kind of category, but many other categories, projects fit into multiple. So
They
let
do.
us figure out a matrix that gets you what you want without worrying about what category they're falling in.
Yeah, the train station, I think, is just going to get lost unless we put it in this. The parks is so broad; it includes greenways and that
That's a
kind
good
of
point.
thing. So,
I put
I
that over there.
understand better.
Okay, I put this over here as a side. Senior Center alternatives, future capacity. Have I captured sort of what you were telling us as staff is a modification?
The only other one would be the police and fire training facility, if we break that out.
Okay, you want to
Is that what you want now?
local
Is that
and regional, right?
But I think you were going to do that anyhow, right? We don't fire, make it in-surge training,
Local training center.
Local
and
and
regional.
regional. Staff already sort of started talking about that. It just makes the most sense. I don't think it was always kind of sitting in that area, but
It started out as a Morrisville training center.
yes.
And we've been aware of the local training center has been a concept for about 15 years. I'm sorry, the regional training center, we kept an eye on it, and it's kind of got momentum and then lost it,
Yeah.
and it's just did that. And so now it's time it has momentum, but it's at a point now where we feel like we should bring it forward and make it aware.
Okay, good. Everybody good with that?
I have two.
Okay.
Don't write anything down.
Okay, I
Just
listen first.
discuss.
Actively listening, right?
On the Public Works facility, on page 14, for example, it has basically the costs incurred in fiscal year 20, 21, 22. And I know we're not talking about affordability and cost, but this is an expensive project. Remind me, what did the bond guy say at the last meeting when we could?
In terms of capacity, meaning when you're retiring other debt significantly, 2021, around that year to 2025-ish.
Okay, so question, do we want to consider in the CIP, like land acquisition ballpark, just over $1 million, do we want to program in the CIP some plan to start acquiring land over the next couple of years? Is that even a good idea? That's what I was hearing. We're not going to build anything now, but if we wait until 2020 to start looking for land, it's going to cost a lot more. So I think one modification may be land banking or whatever you call
Right,
it.
because I was going to say, it's not just this parcel, it could be the Heritage Park parcel as well, so it's land banking as a policy
So
for that category that you mentioned.
I think for this one, I guess what I'm trying to say is the plan should be focused just on land acquisition over the next 5 years. I don't know.
I'm in favor of land banking. I just don't think that we have the ability to have enough money.
Well, if we do it over 5 years, that's over $200,000 a year. This example
For this project,
right,
and we can put it towards this project.
Right, and then we'll figure out the priorities later. But we're talking about modifying just what this program profile says, and I don't know that.
That'll take some political will, because this is a project that's not really liked by the voters, and we're taking $200,000 and not using it.
Actually, it scored pretty high on the citizen survey.
Don't assume that the voters don't like, the public doesn't like it. I wouldn't assume that.
Well, that's what I was really surprised at. I added the project score, which is sort of town staff ranking, and then I added a column, citizen survey, what the people thought. And I was surprised this got just about as high as the police training facility. Not quite as high as the fire station was, I think, the highest. But this was higher than the rec center in town, blah, blah, blah. So,
And I would add that this is typical of how towns do that. I mean, Cary did this before they built their public works facility off James Jackson. They purchased the land years in advance. I want to say probably 7 or 8 years before they did anything, because they recognized the need of one availability factor, and of course the price too. So it's a.
So for modification, I don't know how you write it, but
Well, is it phasing?
whatever we just said.
Or is it land
front-loading
bank
land
profile
acquisition
sheet?
for bigger projects.
Accelerating land acquisition.
Public Works, and what was the other rural?
The Heritage Park.
TTA.
TTA.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah. TTA land.
But just so I'm clear, in my mind, I wouldn't lump that. Those are two entirely separate
They would be
projects.
separate,
Okay.
yes. That, in my mind, that's how I
Okay.
see
Their
them.
opportunities.
All right.
Because eventually they'll relate to a construction project in the future.
And Gina, in concert with that, I think you have to consider not only land acquisition, but land divestiture.
Okay.
I mean, why, if we go down that road, why wouldn't we put the 13 acres on the market, sell the thing, use that land money to buy other land, and lease it back from, the landowner for however many years until.
Oh, you're talking about public works?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Well, we talked about
that way
earlier.
you're not out any money. You've got your land. Everyone's happy. So
Win-win.
We have additional acreage, I think we brought that up earlier, right?
13
Yeah,
acres.
yeah. As an option.
I think we have lots of options.
Had two?
Yeah. So the other, and I want to keep on top. So the other one, don't write this down either, is
Yeah, I haven't moved yet.
it's maybe a little tougher nut to crack, but the Civil War Battleground Park, as the profile from just a profile perspective, it's a very expensive project. I know we're not talking about that, but it sounds like it's going to be developed pretty soon. If we were going to do this, we would really have to jump on this tomorrow morning. So the profile for me isn't very feasible in my mind. If I don't know how we can change it, but I guess what I'm saying is I'd like to think about how we can do something with this that for
That's
me
realistic.
this profile isn't very helpful.
How does everybody else feel about that?
Chris, do you think it's obviously it's dependent on how that land's developed?
Yeah.
Totally.
I think that's where I'm heading is it sounds like the modified profile would be some kind of vision like Ben described. We're not committing to anything, it's just, I'm not sure this.
No, I agree. I don't think, it's,
And what you talk about is such a stark difference with that profile.
yeah. I think that's what his point is.
And I'm not trying to say make it go away, but that profile, maybe one we just need to remove at this point because the concept is going to be so different. The cost is going to be so different.
I'm not sure if I feel comfortable removing it yet. I mean, we're on the edge of having a discussion, and we need to leave it there until we have the discussion, and then we should modify it with full information. We don't have the complete picture yet.
Since there is going to be quite a bit of change in this, maybe we should go ahead and make modifications to the profile, have staff go back and put things, because my fear is if you leave it out there as the way it is, the public is going to think that there's this several $1 million project over all these acres, and we know it's not going to happen. So maybe we should modify the profile.
Modifying
With what
I'm
we know.
okay with, but removing I don't feel
Everybody,
comfortable.
how does everybody feel about
I
it?
agree with Vicki. It needs to remain, but it needs to state realistically.
It has to be more realistic.
Right. It's not realistic, so it really needs to be overhauled, but I wouldn't remove it.
So that's a modification.
Yes.
Yes, the big M.
Good.
Yes.
Can I say something? One of the big ticket items on that park is the actual road improvements.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
So, and the land acquisition. So, I get I understand what you're talking about as far as modifying the project, but to do anything with that piece of property, looking at road improvements.
It's
Even
mostly
if you put
nature.
if you put a $200,000 building out there, the road improvements are going to trump
No.
it.
What building?
It's called
By the time the land's developed, it's not going to be the property to do what we originally intended. So that's what we're talking about doing. Bring it back into reality.
So a passive
25 acres
passive
there.
park.
20 of it's going to get developed, 19 of it's going to get developed. There's going to be a strip left along the creek, basically. So what do you do with it?
All right.
Okay. So, more realistic in line with the circumstances that we're aware of today with the property.
And less road improvements.
Less sorry.
Well, if the developer comes in and it's split, obviously, road improvements will be the developer's responsibility. We would get the lowland areas, some of the slope areas. the work that we would do and what we would put out there wouldn't require any road improvement at that point. So we can work on a more realistic scaled-back version of that that shows less acreage and less development.
That's great. Others?
Jeannie, what's our CIP dollar threshold that justifies it being on a CIP?
100,000.
This isn't so much of a modification. I just like Jerry's idea of the Veterans Memorial Park to, be open to having maybe a smaller amount of money dedicated for doing something, so that they can. And that's not really a modification. I just want to.
Well, honestly, like I said, I put the $100,000 number in there just as a kickoff number.
Okay.
If the intent is that the project be funded by donations and outside resources, council doesn't have to put any money into it. All you really have to do to get it kickstarted is to commit to the site. If you would make that option available, see if the VFW or the American Legion or some other nonprofit organization is willing to step up and say, we'll lead the fundraising effort. But you have to start it by saying, if you can raise the funds to build it, we'll give you this acre and a half. Or
We'll let you build it on this acre and a half.
And then it will become our property and we'll maintain it if you can raise the funds to build it.
That's right.
So
that be a
really kick it off
modification?
however you want to.
I mean, should that be written in as
That's
a?
what I want. What you
Yeah.
just said. Can you repeat that? That's what I want.
Another decision point is the location. Is that the location that council agrees where it should be, or it doesn't make any difference? The town would agree to provide a location.
I think the location's fine.
Based on the items that we saw months ago, I liked the way it looked and where it was.
Is there any problems with the access to the Stottlemyre property coming off of Town Hall Drive through there, or would it be?
They would be on the land the town currently owns.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't even impact.
Across the street.
All right. So it's
Footbridge would be okay, but road would be.
So what word do we want to?
This is a modification.
well, right now it's a 2020 project, so maybe the modification is if the group would like to have it happen sooner,
We can definitely change that.
then then an option is to make the land available and say go for it. We'll help out as much as we can.
Well, that's, with consensus, we could just ask for a briefing item and then make that so.
Yeah, I would be in favor of that.
You can do that without it being on the CIP. If you're not considering funding over $100,000, it's not on the CIP project.
Right, you can actually incorporate that within
You
your
wanna
budget
hear it?
planning this year if you decided to give it a little cash to get the group started, to start working on some funding campaign. Just
If you're
throwing that out
willing
there.
to do as a operating budget item, $25,000, $50,000 just to do preliminary conceptual work or conceptual design and some preliminary geotechnical work. We want to do a couple of test pits to see what the soil content is, so that someone looks at it and goes, okay, you're going to have some stabilization and that kind of thing. It could be an operating budget just to kick it off, and then
I want to make sure it gets done, though.
It's like setting the table and letting someone
Personally,
take
I'd
it.
like to, I don't see a group organized to step up to even, I'd like.
but they don't have a site to organize to rally around.
Right.
I know organizations that would step up and do some. I mean, not maybe one, but
We have to dedicate the land. I think that's a big
I'm
deal.
okay with the land.
I don't see a downside of just putting it out there and seeing if someone steps up and tries.
But that's the thing about getting it kicked off.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a group to rally around the project when you can't walk out and stand somewhere and envision this is where it's going to be. But if the committee, if the council can come back and say, here's your acre and a half. If you can raise the funds, you can put it here. Now they've got something to stand out there and look at and point to and say, this is where it's going, guys. Get on board. Come on.
Do we want staff to come back with a kind of a low to no cost option that would get it done sooner than later?
That's
which
what
would
I-
involve heavy private involvement.
that's what I would like.
But I mean, I don't think it's anything going to involve. But if we agree on the site and someone else wants to run with the thing,
I have no problem doing that.
No, I think that's a good winning approach.
Tony, interrupt
Yeah, I
you.
just
So
want to make sure that the council is locked in on the site, because
Yeah.
we're talking about gateway and opportunities for the gateway, and there's other property that is much more prominent for the town.
So I guess that could be part of the briefing is here, council, here's 3 sites that might work around town. Here are the problems with each one of them, the benefits of each one of them.
So we can drive around and look.
And the Parks and Rec Committee sort of went through that to a certain extent.
They did.
Yeah,
That was part of the civil war.
You're talking about surface work. I will just tell you from a city of Winston-Salem perspective, I was involved as a staff support regarding the Triad Memorial that's in Kernersville area as they attempted to raise fund money. It is difficult, even for a significantly worthy cause. And Jerry's right. You give somebody a piece of land, that isn't going to get you any fundraising efforts. They want to see the pretty pictures of what it looks like, and you can't really do that until you know it can go on the site.
Right.
You just have to be realistic.
Do your geotech work,
Yeah.
get your subsurface done, and when they come back and say, you know, here, you need
It
this
can
much
look like
reinforcement,
this.
you'll have to do this much, undercut, backfill with this. You get that counter report that says, yes, this site works.
So I would like to keep that language there, moving, but also ask that we come back with these options.
And
the
maybe
different
Sites, alternative sites.
alternative sites and
Yep,
with
that's a
the,
good
with
idea.
the not, that we're going to have to do something that's, some investment.
So are we not, instead of this being a CIP document, are we talking about a briefing sheet, bringing back this information?
I'd like to keep it on the
I think
CIP
it's
in
just
case
stays
Yeah, I think
we,
this is part of the,
Because we just moved below the CIP threshold.
It's over 100,000 for total cost.
Jerry,
we're assuming that we're still going to have to pony up to actually build it later, but if private entity can come forward and really make something happen, then we can partner with them later or something. But I think this keeps it on the CIP.
it just keeps it in this planning, the strategic planning discussion with other considerations, because you're talking about using one of your assets, one of your pieces of property, potentially. But you could offload it to your annual budget in our budgeting conversations, because CIP and budget go in tandem.
and again, you're still setting your priorities, your project priorities, so we need to know where this is going to fit before it starts going into a budget. and all
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
So right now, we're just kind of fleshing it out.
Okay, so are we good with this? Veterans dedicated land potentially, but consider alternative sites. What would those costs look like between the sites? To understand the viability of the sites, and moving the timing up is something else I heard from a couple of people.
Yes.
Well, I just said you could move the timing up to
Private industry,
private
private
industry
dollars
to pay
come
for it. I don't
forward.
think we would.
We don't want that option not to be there, that something could happen earlier. That's the whole
Right,
notion.
we're trying to facilitate an earlier
Yes.
Okay.
execution.
Good.
Jerry doesn't seem convinced.
We can talk about some alternate sites, but to give you any kind of cost idea, I can show you 2 or 3 other sites in town, but I can't tell you if the land's any good. You gotta go out and drill some holes.
If this project rises to a high level,
right.
then we can direct back to getting into the specifics. But right now, it's still in the mix, it's still in the pot.
Yeah, but we can look at just conceptually, could it fit here, could it fit here, could it fit here?
Okay, others?
Can I go back up to the land banking bullet? Were we going to put specific projects in there? Because I would put the town center gateway in there too. Were you going to, or was, because you say public works, I forgot how we left that,
Rural
sorry.
Public
Yeah.
Works, Rural Heritage, TTA, front-loading
Town
land,
center
acquisition.
gateway, that's a land
Okay.
acquisition.
Oh, good point.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Bought the damn thing.
Make it
Town center gateway.
Oh, we're past time.
All right, we're at 9 o'clock. Do we have more
halfway there.
suggestions?
Okay, that's right.
Glass is half full, y'all. Yes, sir.
Not a suggestion or a modification, but just sort of how I was looking at it. I was looking at it as like 4 different buckets. Like A is the things that we already have in the process that we talked about at the retreat that we're moving forward with, and we're pretty confident that that's going to happen unless the wheels come off. And then there was B, things that we'd like to have happen soon, things that are attractive to everybody. Then C are things that aren't really that high priority that we might get to in a few years. And then D were things that were almost off the table, but we want to keep on the list. So I just want to share, that's sort of how
What
I
about
was
we
bucketing
can't
them.
afford it, we really like to, but we can't, because of the debt ratio, we have to put it out 10 years.
Okay, that's
No.
your fifth bucket.
No, what I heard from you though is that you have a short term, it is your B, so I was looking for the complementary, urgent but long term.
So now you're kind of talking about prioritization
Yeah.
and signing them into silos.
So where do we go next?
Okay.
Jeannie, just meteorologist Jones says that the stuff is starting to fall out there, so we want to.
Yeah, that's tomorrow. That was my segue.
That was your segue
Tell us what we're
to
doing
wrapping
next
it up.
Okay.
Yes, home safe.
Yeah. Anything as far as combination, well, we sort of talked about that, removal, adding. I'm not hearing you want to remove anything necessarily. You want us to reconsider some things.
I'm not
You
sure I'd
good?
combine anything either.
Okay.
Some of these are pretty big.
Okay.
I'd like,
I think the combination might be the stormwater project and the Sawmill Creek Greenway.
okay, yep.
Those kind of things, because they really fit together and the funding could be.
I like the parking lot and the stormwater project, that kind of thing. The Greer property.
Right.
Yeah, if you put all three of those together, yeah.
A gateway in the stormwater project.
Gateway in the stormwater
So
project?
less combine and more think of them as being related.
How are those related?
The water
Maybe
feature kind of
Maybe
thing.
separately, what we can
Oh.
do
We-
is do the correlations for you,
Yeah.
rather than combining projects, because it
Okay.
sounds like there's some mix and match options even.
Yes, that's a great idea.
No one
Oh,
can
the
read,
handwriting
no one
gets
can read
better
that,
as the
Jeannie.
night goes on.
I'm like,
You might,
it's 10 o'clock, I'm 30 minutes late. That's all that's going through my head.
let's see, Liberation.
I know. Well done.
You know, I'm an artist, I can paint pretty pictures, but I can't write worth a darn. And I certainly can't spell. Okay, so how are we, anything else? So we'll do a correlation matrix of the projects to show the relationships, and maybe that'll give you some ideas for the next step. We don't want to rush you in this process. We've already kind of planted the seed with you. It doesn't have to fit with this budget adoption this year if you feel like you need to slow down a little bit, because I think you're making some really good progress in the conversations. I've heard CIP conversations for a number of years, and I think this is a really good one tonight. So Tony's like,
Keep
no.
pushing, keep pushing. They're doing great.
One thing,
I think it just has to be manageable to you, what you're willing to consume. So don't let us push you harder than you are willing to go, because your result in the end might be more problematic and raise concerns and issues later. So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Staff won't drop the ball. We'll
We keep pushing,
things
yeah, and I don't think we're really into prioritization yet, but I want to throw in the thought that things that are already sort of being accomplished other places, like a good example would be the Crabtree Crossing Greenway. We already have an adequate sidewalk there, so that might not be the best use of our money. And I hate to say it, the same thing for the Sawmill Greenway. We sort of have sidewalk loop nearby that parallels it. So I'm in favor of greenways, but that might not be the best use of our money right now. Not a lot of bang for buck, since we already have, the need is being met. So I like to sort of think of it that way too.
Good.
But I think you planted a seed. That's something you need to talk about as you get to your prioritization. If that's the case, it could fall down to the bottom, and that in itself will tell you maybe later doesn't need to be removed.
So are we looking at another work session or?
Well, I think you've given staff a lot to do. I'm going to pass it over to Martha to.
I don't know that answer yet.
That's
I
fine.
would tell you that staff probably needs to, we'll have to get together and figure out how much time we need to do this next thing. You are going to be looking at your policy at the Tuesday's meeting, and we've already told you you've got some of these other updates that are going to layer in, and we've got some prioritization protocols that we're going to continue to talk about. You are going into, as is staff, a very heavy workload time with just the budget. So we're certainly going to touch CIP as we talk about the budget, but a work session, you may want to wait until like a July to have another major work session.
I'd rather take the time like we did tonight and sort of get it right than to try to do it at a meeting, regular meeting.
I think what at least I see tonight is, again, this is very productive, and this kind of session is difficult to put into your regular meeting agenda. This one really does lend itself to a work session environment.
Would it help staff if each of us sort of gave maybe the top 10 that we're thinking that are kind of high-ish priority? Are we
I don't
prepared?
think we're ready for that.
Okay.
I'd kind of like to talk it out for me, just to hear what, because I've learned a lot.
It would just give each of us an idea of what we're all thinking are important things, and if 5 of them are all on the top of our lists, then that's where we can sort of focus our discussions on.
I think you really need to get a core piece back, and that's that citizen survey. We need to see the results of that survey, and what information does that help you in with your prioritization, because that's one of your tools you've established. So we need that to come back. And I think
That's
late
coming,
March.
yeah, early April, but it's coming in at the same time as some of the budget preparations. You'll have all that information to go along with those discussions as well.
So you've got your project profiles and some modifications that we need to bring back to you. You need to really hear what the community is strategically valuing, and then really kind of go through and use those tools that you have, the project evaluation sheet, for example, to really get to this part next. So we're needing to wait for this for sure.
I think all those last 3 are very important before we start ranking things, because you may love a project, but if it's crazy expensive, then you may not love it as much. So, and if you may love a project, but if it's ranked very low on the citizen survey, you may not love it as much. So,
And another way to think about prioritization is there's going to be small and large projects. So you might be able to get more projects done if you have one large and a couple small versus all large. So we have to think about it both in prioritization as well as size.
Well, I think what you're saying
Big rock,
is
little
size
rock.
could be a prioritization criteria. And I think that's really, and if I have to plant a seed for something that I think you're going to have to individually think about and then come together as a group, there are multiple ways to prioritize. And you're going to have to decide if it is, as perhaps Councilmember Colley suggested, everybody pick their top 10 and we sort of see where it all falls out, or are you desiring to agree on what the prioritization criteria are and then see how it falls out? And those could end up in 2 different results.
I like what TJ said about the 4 buckets and looking at the short term versus the long term too. That's just another angle of prioritization, because there may be certain things we're discussing now that we need to make a decision on in order to execute that. Like we didn't talk about some of them today, but like the Main Street discussion and everything, there's stuff on the CIP that we need to decide, we got to commit. And I think that factors in versus things that are longer term.
Sequencing.
So, I mean, in addition to what he said about listing the 10, that would be helpful, I think, in addition, as a part of that.
Yeah, and a lot of these projects also, we talked about phases too. So we can start a really good project that has a high dollar price tag, but we can at least start the phase 1 of the 3 or 4 phases.
Well, and decisions you make on one could influence your decisions on others.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other comments? This was really great.
No, thank you, Jeannie.
I think
Thank
you
you,
guys did a
Jeannie.
great job. Thank all the project leaders for being here. Answering all the questions. Diana for setting up dinner for us tonight and taking those minutes.
Thank you. for
Thank you all very much.
sticking with us.
High five to everyone.
Yeah. Second.
Second.